Order. It is 6 p.m. on August 12th, 2026, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Tosh. If you'll please stand. Thank you. We'll start with roll call. My left.
Joel Temple, no conflicts.
Melissa Kendall, no conflicts.
John Lyons, no conflicts.
Jonathan Hill, no conflicts.
Tosh Metzger, no conflicts.
Matt Wheelwright, no conflicts. So first, a statement on decorum for all those present. Although this is a public hearing, only the presenters and those invited by the commission may speak or ask questions unless otherwise invited by the chair. Please wait to speak until called upon. When speaking, be sure to speak into the microphone so that the record is clear. Please state your name and city of residence for the record. Please limit side conversations as they interfere with the audio recording. If you need to have a side conversation, please step out of the chambers. Please do not attempt to interrupt or speak over others. Intimidating or threatening speech or behavior will not be tolerated at any time. Please refrain from clapping, cheering, booing, or being otherwise disruptive during the hearing. Let's see. So we will start with item 1, which is a Development Services requests an ordinance text amendment to Provo City Code 14.34.290 to add Provo River Design Corridor Standards. It's Hannah, right?
Yes.
Okay, Hannah will start us off.
Thank you. This would be added as our 6th design corridor. The others you see listed here have been successful. We would be carrying over the same template, adding it to the same chapter to accomplish the goals of the River and Lakeshore Plan, which specifically encouraged the city to consider design guidelines exactly like this, and then outlined what those design guidelines should address. Some of those are highlighted here on screen. The rest are fully listed in your packet, but this plan, the River and Lakeshore Plan, was very much the guiding document for the rest of the standards we're proposing tonight. We had a working group to help us work through some early priorities and review drafts and iterate as we went along, including 3 counselors, representatives from each of the districts that border portions of the river, internal departments, as well as someone from the Utah Lake Authority and a commercial property owner. Their input was all included throughout and is shown in this final document. We also ran the final documents past some developers who said that the design standards and ecological requirements here would not be burdensome at all. That was a unanimous point of feedback we got. They did give us some advice on specific design standards, market availability, especially as we were looking into the aesthetic design and sense of place. A few did highlight the potential for infill development, where we have larger properties that border the river that, because of the large river setbacks, have large undeveloped swaths. They'd be interested in potentially filling in those vacant or grassy sections now with something that would help the public get a little bit closer, which is one of the major goals of the River and Lakeshore Plan and this document. The objectives are fully listed on screen as well as in your packet, but it was essentially getting people closer to the river to let them linger and spend time and encourage development to embrace and face the river rather than simply backing up against it, while of course preserving its ecologically sensitive uses. The plan is structured around 2 different categories broken down by the underlying zone. And because this is based on the underlying zone, we don't need to have any mapped or designated areas. As people apply for rezones, they will move from one area to another. The first is light use stretches, which are lower to medium density residential and open space. They will maintain the current setback, that is no structure within, or no permanent structures within 100 feet of the Provo River. We wouldn't be changing that. They also have minimal additional aesthetic design standards, trying to keep things still affordable for single family homeowners and other condo owners in those areas. For high use nodes, this would be all other zones as we're looking at commercial and entertainment, especially in these areas. They would be allowed to get closer to the river with some height restrictions, and of course with depending on the type of structure. I'll get into that later. And we would have more strict aesthetic design standards for them, as they would be closer to the river, more visible to people using the river and the river trail. Those light use and high use nodes would be scattered along. You can see that graphic at the bottom, just giving an idea that they could integrate and alternate to give a sense of organic flow from place to place. Now we're getting into the specific policies. It was universally agreed on that 200 feet from the ordinary high water mark, that is the high point of the bank as you're looking at the river channel, not necessarily where the water is at any given moment since that fluctuates, but the high point of the bank. 200 feet on either side from there, not applying to the Provo River Trail. That trail is specifically exempt. Those will be under park design standards. And moving forward, the rest of this going through, you will note, has ongoing letters, A with creation, B purpose and objectives, going through to T. Those are summaries of the major points as we're going through this very long proposed amendment to the code. It follows more or less what is in your staff report as a summary of the full code, but there are a few points that I want to highlight. The prohibited uses in both the high-end high use nodes and light use areas include industrial manufacturing, storage, warehouses, auto-centric business, including auto storage, as well as car wash, dry cleaners, drive-through businesses, and data centers. The early input we got from our working group was that these are not compatible with the aesthetic and ecological and recreational value that the city would like to see for this river. Setbacks and building height. We've got the table here on screen, so I won't go too far into it, but essentially the goal visualizing is that immediately adjacent to the river, we maintain some floodplain vegetated area, not allowing for permanent structures. Moving farther away from the river, temporary structures would be allowed, things like tables, benches, umbrellas, something that in a flood event could easily be moved and would not be a permanent threat to the property. Going from there, from 40 feet on to 100 feet, the height terraces up. This was suggested by our early working group as a way to mimic the existing planes and angles and scope as one is walking down the river, mimicking the tree lines, the canyons, and a sense of scaling up from the river so that you don't have a stark, tall building face immediately off to the side of you. Things would scale up to their normal height allowed by the underlying zone. For a sense of scale, because a lot of that is a little bit difficult to visualize, they are marked here as well. On the far left is an image, as you can see, from the trail marked off on the distances, so you can get a sense of what it would be like for someone on the river or on the trail, how far away 40 feet actually is from that ordinary high water mark, with the trail included in that 40-foot setback. We would maintain the lot coverage, landscaping, river improvements would be required of the developer as they are working with Parks, Public Works, and Development Services. But that was again agreed not to be burdensome to developers by the developers themselves. Getting into the aesthetic standards, this came up again and again in our early working group and in conversations with residents to create a sense of place that is continuous along the corridor, but allowed to be flexible enough for each development. The words that kept coming up were something that was historic, natural looking, fresh, light, timeless, something kind of like Sundance, where anywhere you are on the property, there's a cohesive sense of place. You know you're here and it doesn't feel like anywhere else. But again, we wanted to make sure that this was not going to be a burden for developers or discourage the sort of redevelopment we want to see. Here is an example. All of these specific points listed on the right are also in the full text in the exhibit in the packet. But you can see everything is stepping up with that 40-foot setback from the river with the temporary structures there as well. We encourage decks and exposed timbering, natural materials. We also would require under this horizontal variation, that is where you see the building of the face here. Is there a light? Okay, here. No. If I hold it. There we go. Triple click and hold apparently was the secret. So you can see how this building plane is offset from this building plane. This can prevent the look of a single monolithic structure or wall and break up the building mass to help it integrate with a more organic, natural, less overly designed feel. So that is required. That's something that we've seen in other areas with strict design standards like Sundance. We would also require permeable fencing, at least 50% to keep this a wildlife habitat corridor. No uplighting, you can get a sense of these, and I'm happy to answer any questions about them later, but I don't want to spend too much time here. We would continue following Dark Sky Association lighting policies for this area because it is a wildlife corridor. And the last portion I wanted to flag is as we are looking at maintenance and trail amenities and access, those will be maintained by the property owner if it's a business or a rental property or a homeowners association if it is a residential property. We have not seen recent developments along the river that do not fall into one of these categories. We're not worried about putting this burden on a homeowner to maintain a trail through to the river to their yard with benches and public access. We also, just in case though, have a specific carve out in the code saying that redeveloping single family or duplex properties that would be required to put in these trails or amenities are exempt from having to do so, so that it's not a burden to those properties redeveloping or trying to sell or purchase. Any questions?
Questions, commissioners? I do have one. I think it's section 9, IX, walkways. Seems to me as I look around, there's a lot of asphalt in these areas, but this list doesn't include asphalt.
Yes, for the walking trails and paths, but again, the Provo River Trail is itself exempt from that. Simply to maintain the low impact development standards, asphalt is non-permeable, it's not flood resistant, but the other materials like the aggregate compact gravel are. They are also ADA compliant.
Yeah, a couple of questions. I love this project, by the way. I think this is wonderful and needed. It talks about ecological improvements, necessary and feasible river ecological improvements determined. How's that determined?
That would be determined by Parks, Public Works, and Development Services, but primarily Parks and Public Works.
Okay. It talks about high impact and low impact. What's the difference and how's that what's it mean low impact versus high impact?
Oh, that would be the high use nodes versus the
So
light use.
high use
stretches?
versus, is that what it is?
Yes.
It talks about low impact developments. So that means low use.
Yes, that might have been a terminology shift that we didn't catch. Thank you.
Okay.
This has been read through before. Where is that? Just so I can flag and correct it.
Project summary, near the bottom of page 1.
Ah, yes.
In the
Yes,
staff
that was
report.
simply
In
the
the
staff
staff
report
report.
part.
That's
The
just the
code
staff
itself
report.
uses the terms consistently.
Okay, fine.
Yes.
Okay. Also talks about low impact on, what is that? Item 6B, purpose and objectives, I think.
Mhm.
B1.
Oh, yes, that is talking in terms of low impact development, LID. That's a more planning industry term.
Okay,
Yes.
that's all. Just
Good catches.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now open for public comment. Is anyone here to comment or would like to comment on this item? Yes, okay, so before you come up, we'll open for public comment. When your time's up, you hear a ding and the microphone will be muted. Each person may comment once. If you have questions, we'll invite you to come back to the microphone at that time. This is for comments only. If you have questions about an item, please speak with staff privately. I assume there's no district chair to comment on this one because it's universal. So we'll open for public comment. Please start with your name and city of residence, please.
Because I have a comment.
Let's hear your comment and you can float the question. We'll tell you if you should talk to it later.
My name is William Stephen Crandall. I live in Provo. I walk along the trail a lot. I just want to know, because I like what they're doing and stuff like that. I grew up in Southern California, so I like the projects we're doing and stuff. What is currently the development that they're putting right by the river? And it's by where Allens own that place where you can rent canoes and stuff like that. If you walk along the trail, you see the development. So I'm wondering what development is that and what buildings are they putting in? And
That-
how are they going to measure up with all this stuff? That's the only thing
Okay.
I wanted to know.
That's to get an answer, talk with staff after the meeting, or if we have a break, they'll be able to answer that question. But I think that is a fair question that maybe we could address. Things that are in progress. Well, I'll come back to
See,
that.
it looks
in
like
a
they've torn
second.
down some trees on the other side. I can't get to the
Yeah.
other side to walk because I walk along the
Yeah.
thing. Oh,
Well, all right. Any other public comment? Thank you. Glad to have you here. All right. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. And Hannah, maybe if you would come back, I would like just some extra thought on how does this apply to projects? There's probably no way to apply it to projects that have already received approval and are in progress. How quickly then, if after approval, will we see this take effect with projects that are coming?
It applies to any applications that come in after its date of adoption officially with the council, but doesn't apply retroactively. They have their property rights secured. I'm not sure, I'll answer more generally and talk to him specifically afterward. It seems like he might be getting his answer.
Okay.
We're not sure where that property is. As we were whispering around, we're not familiar with his point of reference with the rental place. But current projects are always visible at provo.gov/planning. There's a hyperlink on the far right side at the bottom of the contact info text that is a map of current projects. Anyone can click there, move around to the portion of the map of the city, click through and see what development is happening in that area. They can also see the planner assigned to those applications and call and follow up with questions.
Great. Thank you.
I believe he's
Mhm.
talking about the warehouse development just west of Lakeview Parkway.
That
There.
was my first guess as well, but I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
That should be it.
Any other questions for Hannah, or are we ready for discussion? All right, commissioners, who wants to start? Anybody having burning thoughts about where they stand on this or how they feel about it?
I'm in favor of it.
Succinct, I love it.
I guess this might be a question for staff, actually. First of all, this is incredible work. Yeah, I love all the thought and detail that's gone into it and all the many elements. There's a section on non-conforming structures, which maybe that applies to sort of this broader question we have. And it says that if it's redeveloped, then the exterior standards would need to meet that new development standard. But I'm curious, yeah, if something was built in the 25-foot plane and this new standard says it should be 200 feet away or 100 feet away, how would that work? I mean, we're probably not going to tell someone to tear down a home or tear down a building. So is there any sort of is there any consideration to, I know some cities will have non-conforming policies where you have 10 years to get rid of a non-conforming structure, and then here's how much the city will pay out to help with that property loss, or I don't know. Is that a consideration? Are there even enough properties that's applicable to that it's a concern? Is there a large amount of development up against the river that we're concerned about, or?
Not currently, but this is more addressing redevelopment. Picture, for example, a single family home, which is most of the properties along the river. Most of them are single family homes. They would not be forced to conform in any kind of a timeline, but if, say, they are building an addition to the back of their home or some kind of new structure or substantially remodeling or even fully rebuilding the home, then that new home would have to meet any additional standards, or new business more specifically, because those are held to our design standards.
Okay, yeah. So in the instance of a single family home remodeling, they would still be exempt because it's single family homes and duplexes. But if 5 of the homes were to be sold and redeveloped into townhomes, then they're held to these new standards. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Well, thank you.
I also would commend staff. I saw the list initially of the corridors that we've been adding. I'm glad we're adding them. I kind of wish we could do them all at once and do all the important stuff, but thank you for the good work. We have someone who would like to make a motion.
I can make a motion to, is the motion to forward a positive recommendation to council on ordinance text amendment to Provo City Code 14.34.290.
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion of the motion? All right, let's go ahead and vote, starting with Joel.
Hi.
Aye.
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 So
Aye.
Thank you. So item 1 passes 6-0. All right, item 2, and I believe we have Go back to my agenda here. We'll read in item 2 and 3 together. So item 2, Tyson Reynolds requests approval of a zone map amendment from the R16 zone to the LDR, low density residential zone, in order to create a 33-unit townhome development located at 2000 North Canyon Road, Pleasant View neighborhood. And also item 3, Tyson Reynolds requests concept plan approval for a 33-unit townhome development in a proposed LDR zone located at 2000 North Canyon Road, Pleasant View neighborhood. And Dustin will present to start us off.
All right, thank you very much. So, yeah, this property here has been before you recently, where they had 19 single-family homes approved. They're coming back now with this rezone and concept plan for 33 lot subdivision. And so that's here. And so that would consist of these 3-unit townhome units, so 9 townhome units and 24 twin homes, totaling those 33 lots. Each of these has a 2-car garage, which would have 2 tandem parking stalls. So that's going to be the 4 stalls per unit. Here on the landscape plan, one thing I wanted to point out I didn't have in the staff report was about the amenity space requirement that the LDR, low density residential zone, has. So it's a 20% gross lot area requirement to be amenity space. And with the caveat that that can't be within any of the setback requirements. So they do have a little bit of amenity space, but it is in the current setback area, so that wouldn't qualify to meet that. So that's one issue that's not being met there with the amenity space requirement. Here's some conceptual floor plans that have been provided. This is showing the twin homes, and then here's some floor plans of the townhomes. So these are, again, conceptual plans. So this was, these are showing 4 units, but their current concept plan is just showing 3 units. Staff's understanding is that these are all 3-bedroom units. And then here's the elevations of those, again, with the one on the right-hand side that's showing 4, but their current plan has just 3 townhome clusters. And then as far as the current zoning, like I mentioned earlier, it was rezoned to the R16 zone for those 19 single-family lots. And their request is still going to be residential. So the general plan there on the right calls for residential. So that complies with the general plan. But yeah, they're asking for that low density residential now. So any questions that you have for me?
Can you just clarify for us the current status? The slope has been removed. Are you familiar with where it currently stands in terms of what's been happening on the site? Just clarify for us.
Yeah, I wasn't part of that, but another planner was, but yeah, from what I understand, they're kind of going through that process of removing the hillside. And there's work being done there currently on that part of that.
And is the slope currently stable? I know this was a discussion last time at length about retaining walls and slope stability and bonding and all that. Do you have
I'd probably defer to David Day with Public Works. They'd be more involved on that, but that is something that they're currently working on with the work that's being done on the property.
We can come to that later. Questions at this point, John?
Yeah, so you mentioned that it does not comply due to the amenity space. Are there other areas where it does not comply? In your report, you talk about public purpose best served by the amendment in question does not comply. Can you talk to that just a little bit? And any other areas where it may not be in compliance?
Yeah, just in the staff report and that staff analysis, just kind of going through those. Yeah, so like, for example, the amenity space that I mentioned, the height, their elevations didn't have that detail, their conceptual plans, so they didn't really provide that information. So I can't confirm that it meets those height requirements.
Okay.
And then, yeah, just landscaping, those type of things. I haven't been able to verify that those have been met based off of what have been provided to staff for review.
What's your assessment of the parking?
So with parking, like I mentioned, they do have, they meet that requirement. So each one would have the 2-car garage with the 2 tandem stalls. So that'd be 4 parking spaces per unit, where 2.25 would be required. So there's
Any concern about these private roads that they're developing in terms of the size or the width of them?
So it's gone through our CRC review. I think Public Works could comment better on that. They do have, here you can see on the north side, they have a fire access road kind of connecting in there. So I think that was something that came from Fire and Public Works on meeting those standards. So.
Okay.
Can I follow up on that real quick? How does that work? It looks like there's kind of a pedestrian trail, but it's a hard enough surface for a truck to go through, or because it doesn't look paved.
Yeah, it's not something that's going to be daily use. That's just when there's an emergency and they need to get access back there to handle that. So
do they just use a special surface or something the trucks are okay on, or how do you build one of those?
Yeah, technically that's probably what could be done there as far as making sure it meets the fire code requirements for the fire apparatus to be able to get back there. So those would be things that fire would comment on if this went on to project plan. So right now it's just at the concept plan, so we don't get into that much of the detail there, but that was something I think that was required from fire. So
back to the width of the roadway. The city now has a minimum 30 feet width. Is that way because this is a private street?
Yeah, so I think when this was submitted, it probably was, I was checking with David Day. That might be something he can answer better as well, as far as that timing of when that changed and when this was submitted.
So nothing's on this has been approved yet. So because it's so how does that work if this is now not permitted in the city of Provo? What happens?
Yeah, so if it was, previously private street could be 24 feet. So if the I guess the regulation has changed since that time, so that would increase. But moving forward, if this got approved, they would be able to follow what was approved in plans. And I think again with Public Works, they could probably answer that better than I can.
Maybe David, do you mind answering that question and the question about the slope, and then we'll get to public comment if that's okay.
I have a question for David.
David Day with Public Works.
Sorry, thank you.
So the road width, the city council just revised that this spring. I believe this project was submitted prior to that, so that would be vested under the old ordinance, which was 24 feet was our narrowest width. It's now our narrowest width's 30. So it's the appropriate width for what they've submitted.
And then
I'm not sure I understand that. So if they were to submit this today,
Then they would not be allowed to submit 24. It would have to be 30.
but that this road has not been built and this plan has not been approved.
Yeah.
So
So it's when their application was submitted. If
Okay.
it was prior to the change.
The rules that are in place on the date that your application is submitted and complete, you're vested under the city rules on that date.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And you're saying that the application for this new project, the 33 units, not the application for the 19 units that was previously approved, correct? This was submitted in April.
Is that right, David?
So I was trying to look that up to verify that, but yeah, we'll check that. If it was submitted after the change that the city council made, they'll have to widen that out to 30. The Hillside, the city of Provo, when this first got approved, approached the developer and said, hey, can we remove that fill material because we have places we need it for city purposes? And he said, yes, you can. So city trucks removed all that material. Now they're in the process of building the retaining wall. I haven't been up there for a while, but I know it was partially built last time I was up there. It's a very substantial wall. But yeah, ultimately it will be completed and everything will be stable.
But you're not worried stability wise in the
No.
process right now?
No, it's been designed very conservatively, which means it's stronger than it needs to be.
Jonathan?
Dave, can you comment? I'm noticing sidewalks only extend through part of this development. Can you comment on how common that is and what rules govern where
Yeah,
sidewalks need to be put?
When we're in a hillside area which has a grade of 5% or greater, we're allowed to put sidewalk on only one side. But on this one, it has sidewalk on both sides part way up. It's just to try to minimize the flat area when you're on a slope. It's hard to flatten everything out. The more you flatten out, the steeper the rest of it gets. So that is in our code to allow sidewalk on one side.
So that's why, because of the slopes in the area. And I noticed one side has a parking strip and the other side does not, separating the sidewalk from the road. Do you know why that might be?
Yeah, the north side just frankly didn't have enough width to have a
To fit
park
it.
strip. So we figured it was more important to have the sidewalk than not have it. So that was kind of a trade-off.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, David.
Okay.
Is the applicant present? All right. We'll invite you forward. You have up to 15 minutes to present. I think you know the drill on this, so please start with your name for us, would you?
Yes, I'm Rob Reynolds, owner of the project. And obviously it's been going on a while. You mentioned about the retaining wall. Currently it's about 80+% complete. The most challenging sections are complete as far as that way goes. We're still got to finish off the ends and a couple of sides, but for the most part, we're largely complete with the most concerning part as far as that way goes as to material sliding or the like, and it's all been retained on the site. It hasn't gone on to anybody else as far as that way goes. I was before, I don't know if the exact body here, like I said, about a year ago for my original desire, which I still think is the highest and best use, is more of a student housing project. The neighborhood didn't like that, even though it sits in that area, if you will. So I've been trying to find something that makes sense, and I thought I had that with the 19 units until I realized that people that want to pay $1.5 million kind of dollars for a home don't necessarily want to look over student housing or the like. And so the marketing of it became challenged, where twin homes are a lower price point, but likewise also more family oriented for younger and families and or those that are trying to downsize. And so it became apparent that the need for this was more applicable for the area and likewise for the specific need that we see in this area. And my feeling is that it is a better project for the location than the single family homes for affordability and desirability for the type of people that would want to be in that area as far as that way goes. In the attachment given as part of the thing is a lot of my notes and some of my correspondence as to what I believe why it's more appropriate than the previous plan submitted. And my belief is with the current zoning at R16, if you look at everything other than the back that's separated by 50 foot of grade change, if you will, is all student housing, which is a higher density. It's right next to me on the front is medium density. I got condos to the back, which is a higher density than where I am. It seems like if anything, it's spot zoned to the low instead of being more applicable to the surrounding neighborhood. So it seems to be the least impact from my perspective with what's around it. And I think it brings in the kind of families and other things which would be desirable to the neighborhood. Other than that, I'm open for questions.
I think there have been two questions that have already been brought up that maybe you could speak to. One was about amenity space and another about street width. Could you help us understand a bit more about your thoughts on those?
The street width was one that our engineer had been working with staff down here on resolving that, and I thought that was done. As far as the amenity space, the low density residential zone, I think, is more, for lack of a better word, designed for 12 plexes or 18 plexes where people are condensed, where twin homes have your own backyard, you have your own space, but they don't want to count that as part of it. I was told that we were pretty well there with the amenity space also serving as the emergency access road coming through the north side, as well as between the middle areas was an area where we have the water line underneath that easement landscaped area that was back behind the setbacks for the yards. I was under the impression that it meant it. I initially was going to even flip up behind the wall, but based on my engineering, thought that was a little possibly scary if somebody were to be cruising along that and fall off the wall or the like. But there is a lot of unused space on the property, and I thought that had been attained, but based on what I'm hearing here, that's still an open point that needs to yet be resolved.
And street width, or you
The
start?
street
Sorry, you
width,
started with that.
The street width, yeah, I
I'd
turned that
agree
to
with
our engineer and the city engineering.
Other questions for the applicant? Tosh?
Is this an HOA?
Yes,
It is, okay. And is this private road, is it gonna have a fence or a gate?
it can.
Oh,
Currently,
okay.
it's not drawing such, but I'm open to such.
Oh, I'm just curious, yeah.
Sean?
Yeah, guess a couple different thoughts. When I look at this, I'm trying to envision the parking situation in amongst many of these homes. So visitor parking is where?
Right now, as mentioned before, it's designed, every one of these units has a 2-car garage, and every one you can park 2. And if I flare out the driveway, you can get 3 in the driveway. So you basically have 4 to possibly 5 on site, plus in a streetwise, you have street parking as well if it was exceed that.
So the street parking is along the private roads there,
Correct,
which of this narrow would be one side. Okay.
correct, yeah, we went.
And how wide is let's see, it's called Pine Hollow Lane. It's 17.5 feet. So that's just a driveway in essence, right?
Are you looking at?
I'm looking at the
Shared driveway.
Yeah,
the
that'd be a
shared
shared driveway.
driveways.
in the one-
And shared driveways amongst 6 or 7 units. It feels a little aggressive from the builder point of view. You know, if you had one of those getting in and out and trying to park, feels like it'd be a real problem.
And I guess can you make that wider? I'm sure you can. I guess the question is, would you rather have landscaping or wider roads?
And that kind of speaks to, can you really fit this number of units on that property this size, right?
Well, obviously, there's less units there as far as building pads than there were at the 19 approved lots. This is 33, but less units, if you will, as to boxes. There was 19 boxes and now there's what? 13 or 14, if you will. So the amount of, from a single family, all we initially tried to do, which is why I initially applied for 38 units, was every home I was going to divide into a twin home such that each home would have, would be twinned. But there was some other regulations for fire access and the other things which diminished that and changed things around. So there's actually less buildings now than there were before.
But more cars, we're talking about car
Correct.
access and parking.
Good.
So, okay. If you had to make more amenity space to comply, what options would you have?
Well, based on the engineer, we'd have to go, I mean, I know other things, buildings within the city have had rooftop areas as far as that way goes. I personally don't like them because I have a tendency to leak. But that is an option that's been shared by my engineer and that they've utilized in a few other places. Could we do some additional design possibly behind the wall and fence it off to a people can? Possibly. I don't like that just because I don't, I mean, it's pretty, but it's not necessarily so there's a couple of ideas if as far as that way goes, some of which I don't necessarily like, but
So the other point that was raised was that we can't demonstrate that it's in compliance yet because I haven't shared the heights of these. Can you talk to that a little bit?
it has to meet the code of 30 feet in these. So obviously for us to get a permit for build the structures, it has to meet the 30 feet code.
So, okay.
So yes, it'll have to be compliant or we wouldn't be able to get a permit. So.
One more question from me. I want to get to public comment, but I think if many of these comments might revolve around home ownership versus student rental kind of thing. Are you willing to speak to your thoughts on how you anticipate managing that or thinking about that?
The way that's mentioned the docs as well, we'd be handling that through the CC&Rs, and every home is planned on being sold, not for a student housing kind of a project. I would have liked that better, but in a different, this is not that look or design. So every home on here is designed to be sold. So all would be private ownership.
You were saying that the 19 homes you were expecting they'd be $1.5 million each. So are you expecting these to be $750,000?
I think they're going to be on the smaller side. I don't think they're going to be anything less than 600, and on the upper side, as much as 8 or so. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Stay close. We might have more questions.
Sure.
So we will open this for public comment. Before we do that, I've asked John to just acknowledge that we've received many letters. So if you're here, of course, you're welcome to comment, but we have read your comments, but we want to make sure these are in the record.
We received comments from Rebecca Shoemake, Lily Mott, Michael Barber, D. Lynn Sorensen, and R. Paul Evans.
Great, thank you. I think I saw Lynn, who's representing, maybe there's others representing the neighborhood district, but we'll start there before we go to public comment. So Lynn, are you going to speak representing oh, sorry. Our neighborhood district chair is here. Thank you for being here. You'll have 3 minutes, as you are well aware. Please start with your name, and you know the drill, and then we'll go to other comment.
Thanks.
Sorry, didn't see you.
That's all right. Lynn asked me to present from the neighborhood meeting that we had April 1st. I don't know about dates when his application was submitted. We had our meeting April 1st. I went back over those notes from our meeting, and the main concerns that we heard were the continuing change in the requests, that the units be owner occupied for the first year, at least after the sale, as we've seen other projects in the city be requested to do, either by CC&Rs, deed restrictions, or development agreement. The inadequate parking, this is the first we've heard about 4 parking units, spaces per unit. We understand code requirements, but wonder if a development agreement could specify 3 parking spaces at least for any 3-bedroom units. It needs some green space or open space or a playground to be truly attractive to young families, as mentioned was the intended audience. How do we prevent it from becoming an Airbnb or an overpacked student place? It seems a concept plan should have a little more detail than was present in the staff report that I could access today. And let's see. As we took our poll, there were about 7 people who would be okay with the change if there were some very strong CCNRs. Currently, I'm sure you've heard in the past that the neighbors deal with over parking from Stadium Terrace and overflow parking because parking's being charged, and so they park in their neighborhoods anyway. They're just really concerned about that. They deal with that currently, so this exacerbates that problem. And then there were 21 that were in favor of no change at all. They're excited to see what's currently been approved for the project. As I was doing some math, if he has 4 acres, he could, without coming back to city council, have up to 48 units. And I know he still has to meet setbacks and all kinds of other things, but that's what code would allow for 4 acres for an LDR unit. Mostly my neighbors essentially were saying, please don't make this rezone request. Don't approve it.
Okay. Thank you, Sharon. So we'll now open for public comment. When your time, you'll have 2 minutes. Please start with your name and your city of residence. At the end of the 2 minutes, you'll hear a ding and the microphone will actually be muted. Each person may comment once. If you have questions, we'll invite you to come back to the microphone at that time. This time is for comments only. So if you have a comment, please come up. And since I see a few of you here, if you want to kind of come line up, we'd like to be kind of efficient because we do still have many other items tonight.
Good evening. My name is D.V. Jacobs. It's not happenstance that I'm here tonight to oppose the Reynolds company's latest latest of their half-dozen construction projects for the hill adjoining Garden Villa to the south. With 5 children slated to attend BYU, my parents moved from Ogden down to Provo. I was the first, and we were here for 17 years going through BYU. They came down and bought a home in Garden Villa. You know, there are 81 homes in Garden Villa, and they came in 1969. We came to know the Garden Villa very well as we visited from living. We were overseas folks. We lived 14 years overseas in 5 countries and along with many years residence in Virginia and California. As my folks passed away, we bought their condo in 1999 for intermittent use, and then as, quote, our next to the lasting resting place, getting closer to that every day. We got that in 2014, and we've been there in 2014. Now, the reason I give you that background is I'd like to have you know the kind of people that like to live in Garden Villa and Pleasant View. We have people who live in individual homes for the most part. Across the street, the Allred folks, and the street, mostly families that raise their children here over the years. And their homes are remodeled.
Yep. Thank you. Your 2 minutes is up, but thank you. I think we get the.
Oh, I only had 2 minutes. I didn't know that to the beginning. Well, then I have very old ears. I'll be 96 next month.
Congratulations.
If I could just say one more thing that.
Sir, unfortunately, your time's up.
After these Reynolds have been doing this again and again and again, we're tired of it. The people,
Thank you.
You'll have a lot of resistance from common ordinary people that want to live in a neighborhood, not a potential bunch of people leaving.
Okay,
I'm sorry. I took the extra.
it's okay. Thank you.
Chair, Commissioners, thank you for your time. Last year, the municipal, I'm R. Paul Evans. Last year, the municipal council rezoned this property to R16, an action that you unanimously recommended. And you approved a concept plan for the 19 single-family homes. That decision was clear, it was deliberate, it was appropriate for this neighborhood in Provo City. What is before you today is an incomplete concept plan of 33 attached townhomes and a request to upzone to VLDR. That does not refine that decision. This proposal directly erases your previous decision. So the R16 is intended to maintain predictable low-density owner-occupied neighborhoods, replacing 19 detached homes with 33 townhomes, more than doubles the density. It introduces a completely different housing form and creates traffic and parking demands that the narrow private roads cannot safely handle. The two roads on the north-south axis are 20 feet wide. They don't even meet the minimum 24 for private roads. These units are not starter homes. They're not the missing middle housing. They are investor-oriented products that will not support neighborhood stability or contribute to long-term affordability. The concept plan that you are to look at is incomplete. You do not have the elevation. You've got that north gravel road that is supposed to be emergency access. How will that work? Where else has that been used in Provo? That is just an incredibly large concern. So approving a concept plan and a zone change under these conditions would leave the city with fewer tools to ensure compatibility, safety, and long-term livability. So for these reasons, I urge you to deny the concept plan and that you recommend the municipal council deny this.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll call you back if we have questions for you.
Hi, my name is Jake Bream. Not as famous to you as Paul is, except maybe Joel. I live in this neighborhood. It's in an ADU area. And so we have students that are in there quite a bit. Mostly what I want to do is let's back up and remember how we got to where we're at. He rezoned this to R16, and then the city removed the hill at taxpayers' expense. They did it for free. They did not, there's supposed to be a bond and a subdivision plat approval before any work is done there. That did not happen. The hill is now gone. And that hill was removed in reliance on 19 single-family homes, which fits in the neighborhood. Now, the argument is there's other stuff around it. That's fine, but this is still a residential neighborhood. And the enforcement of, I don't see any reason why you couldn't do single-family homes with ADU. It sits within that zone. But they've got to enforce it. And I think that actually alleviates more of your housing issues than this incomplete, as Paul said, 33 townhome proposal. So we all were in agreement with the 19 residential lots, and we should go back to that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Howdy, I'm Ryan White. I'm the HOA chairman in Garden Villa, just north of here. And we have a really vocal neighborhood. A lot of people are expressing things they've already written in. And they've called me or written to me, and I just wanted to echo their sentiment that they're ticked off about it. And it just feels like, you know, if the developer, you know, had a concern about being able to sell these homes, he should have figured that out before he tore the hill down. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Lynn Sorensen, and I'm the neighborhood chair, the representative to the North District. I echo what my colleague has said from Garden Villa people. I've heard from many people in the neighborhood, not just in Garden Villa, but in the single family homes, that I haven't yet to hear from anyone who is in favor of this proposal. I realize that any developer wants to make money, and as much money as they could possibly make. And this developer has an unbelievable freebie that the city removed the hill for him. Wow. We wish that we could get freebies all the time from the city. This should give him a huge head start on the profit that he wants to make. And this one is obviously designed for profit and not for helping the situation in our city for more affordable housing or in any other situations. In the city council meeting last night, a proposal was put forward where the owner occupied provision would be in perpetuity. In perpetuity. This is a possibility, not for this one, but for some other development that might be on this hill. So just 1 year or even 2 years of owner occupancy is really not enough to assure that a development like this does not turn into student housing. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lynn. If you're waiting to speak, please feel free to come up or line up or sit close so we can move right through. Thank you. So please
Keith
start with your
Curl
name.
from Provo, Utah. We live in an adjoining property to this.
Sorry, I spoke over you. Could you say your name again?
Keith Curl from Provo. We live adjacent to this project, and we have suffered damage as a result of the excavation. If anybody drove by and saw the excavated, the utility trench that had collapsed, that's right below our property. The utility trench that this developer personally dug. So I would offer two things. Consider the merits of the project, but also consider the person who's doing it. Are they a reliable person? Can you rely on what they say? There were requirements that were offered by the city council and by the planning commission, requirements that he, the developer, was supposed to comply with before he started any of this. He didn't do any of them. So does your body exist with any sort of, I don't know, compliance mechanism? So I'd like you to consider the person that you're dealing with. And then I would like to double back to the project itself. You made a point, Mr. Lyons, about it seems pretty crowded. And the developer's excuse is, I can't make money if it's not this crowded. Late breaking news to all of us. It's not our concern, and it is not the city's responsibility or position to ensure profitability for anybody. You should judge it on the merits of the project itself and the buildability of it, which is the developer himself, who's proven to be unreliable. That's all I have to say.
My name is Dorothy Jensen, and I live in Provo, Utah, not very far from this place. And I just think that we really need to have more affordable homes for young families. And how in the world are we going to do this? And Governor Cox is trying to help us to really break the pattern of building huge homes that cost so much that nobody can afford it. And I think we really need to stick with the design that we had that can let people have a chance to own a home. Thank you.
Thank you.
I am Pam Jones. I live less than a mile up Canyon Road from this proposed development. And I've lived in that neighborhood for over 36 years. And I've seen a lot of changes that I haven't liked. I don't like all the crowding. I think this plan is very inefficient if you want to squeeze a bunch of people in a small place, investigate sardine cans. This is really a good location being so close to the campus. But the closer neighbors don't really want more student housing in there. And I've seen the 4 or 5 emails that Paul Evans has sent out. I am very impressed by his articulateness, his research, and his evaluation of the plans of the developer. I think the developer needs to hire Paul if he wants somebody efficient. But I'm all for people having property rights. But what about the rights of the people who own property, who have already been there for a long time? Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. Any other public comment? A letter, please.
Okay. Sorry, I have to manage both systems. Okay. We did have a public comment that came in after I submitted the updates to you all. And it's from Richard and Marnie Isaacson. We're citizens of Provo City and have lived in the Pleasant View neighborhood since 1983. We love our community and our neighborhood. For this reason, we want to communicate in the strongest terms our opposition to the Ryan Reynolds request for a zoning change, allowing a 33-unit townhome development on the hill at 2000 North Canyon Road. Please deny this request for this number one reason. We want to preserve a neighborhood of single-family owned dwellings. There are many reasons for this, and these have been thoroughly described by others. For example, see Paul Evans' documents. Please register our deep concerns about changing the zoning, which will predictably lead to rentals. He says they're not for this, but they are. He's being disingenuous. Do not approve Mr. Reynolds' request for a zoning change and for approval of 33 rental apartments. Thank you for wanting what's best for Provo and for the Pleasant View neighborhood.
Thanks. All right, we will close public comment and we will turn to the commissioners. You have questions? You ready to discuss? Please, Doctor.
I have some questions just for the city. It's been said that we should have had a plat approval before the hill was removed. Can you talk about that? About the process of removing the hill and what requirements should have been in place? And
I'm confident there was a requirement for bonding prior to excavation. I'm not sure about recording the plat. That could possibly be true. I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly. If Paul's reported that that's what it was, it probably is accurate.
so you're saying that that probably was not done then?
Correct.
Does that change because the city was the entity that removed the hillside, that modified the hillside?
Yeah, I believe that the Public Works Department felt some urgency to remove this material because it was needed in other places. It was very high quality. To that issue, the Public Works Department has been paid for that material. Their time and equipment has all been reimbursed out of redevelopment agency funds. The redevelopment agency will be repaid out of a development that's taking place on the west side. So the city is going to be made whole. Those taxpayer funds will be replaced. But I think Public Works felt some urgency to use that fill where it was needed. If I'm miscommunicating things, please, David, correct me.
Thanks, Bill. Other questions?
Is it also true that the roads, the access roads to the north and the south are 20-foot roads?
Those are driveways. Those aren't considered roadways. Those are driveways. So they're allowed to be narrow like they are.
To follow up on that, Bill, can you talk about the rules for shared driveways? When can you have them? Are there rules like length or number of, houses accessing, et cetera? Because there must be some sort of line between when you can just have a shared driveway and when you have to have a road, right? You know what those lines are?
I know it's got to be less than 150 feet, or you then have to have a turnaround that meets fire department regulations. I'm sure there's a threshold on trip generation when you would need another way out or a cul-de-sac. I don't know what that is.
I have another question while we're on roads. There's a little, I'll call it a hammerhead turnaround right above the words Little Rock, kind of further on this exhibit to the right. And then there's that little knuckle turnaround a little further. What's the purpose for having both of those things?
I'm sure it's a fire department requirement, but I don't know why there would be two. I've noticed the same thing. That I'm pointing to it on the screen and you can't see where I'm pointing. That's the one you're referring to, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that is needed plus that. I would imagine the fire department required that because I can't imagine the developer wasting green space to just throw that in. But I'm not sure that the fire department requirement.
Okay, one more question. The staff report says that the LDR zone requirements have not been met. Is there anything beyond the green space or the amenity space that hasn't been met in the LDR zone?
Yeah, so just the items that I mentioned in the staff report would be the ones that we've found haven't been met yet. So those were the amenity space, the height, like I mentioned, was not clearly shown. And I believe landscaping was another one that at this concept plan level, we don't have all of that information to know.
Thanks, Dustin. All right, can we have a little conversation about how we're feeling about this? Jonathan, you look like you're just raring to go.
No, well, not particularly, but I just had a couple more questions for staff, actually.
Okay, sorry, please.
So it was brought up the fact that based on the zone requirements, the density could actually end up higher than this. What protections are in place to prevent that kind of thing from happening?
So there hasn't been any type of development agreement that would bind them to this. So typically that would be a good instrument in place to for a developer when there is additional space there for something like that. But on this, there hasn't been any development agreement.
So at this point, it is something that could occur.
Potentially, yeah, it could.
Great. And then also,
would they not have to match the concept plan?
So they could come back. So if it got rezoned and there wasn't anything binding them to that, they could come back in with a project plan.
With a completely different concept.
Yeah, they could, with a project plan, do something like that.
However, I would argue that if a completely different concept came in, they would have to meet the 30-foot road. And that's going to cut out enough land that adding more units in addition to that road, I think it's highly unlikely. It's a valid point, and it's one that city council should probably deal with when it gets to them. But I think practically it would be very difficult because in the LDR zone, you can't stack units. You can't do more than townhomes.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it because I think, in my mind at least, at the very least, there's going to be some conditions and concerns listed. Airbnbs were also mentioned here, but this zone would not allow Airbnbs, right?
Yeah, they would not be allowed.
Okay, thank you. That's my questions.
Thanks, Jonathan. Jonathan?
So sort of a related question. One of the things that we always grapple with is how to ensure that these are for families. These really become single family homes as opposed to, apartments for students. Is there anything you can talk to? What can we do so that we ensure that that happens?
That would really be up to the developer, if they proffer to do any type of deed restriction or development agreement, but so far they've just mentioned that they would have them be for sale, but there would be no requirement holding a buyer to not rent it out.
And personal experience, or I guess our experience is that the CCRs are not a very adequate way to control that, right? So.
Yeah, the city doesn't enforce those, so the city wouldn't have any say in that, and so yeah, it would just be up to those private property owners.
Mr. Lyon, on that issue, about it remaining the way it's intended or the way it's promised, how that has been evolving when this goes to the city council is when a developer says it is for sale, the city council typically says, okay, for sale to us means it's owner occupied for 1 year or 2 years every time it changes hands, that there's a restriction on how many units can ever be rented. There are several elements to that, and those are all put into a deed restriction that goes to every lot.
Okay, so we control it. Thank you.
Yeah, the council is getting very intent on making sure the city has the tools in place to enforce those kinds of agreements.
Outstanding. Good.
Okay, thanks, Dustin. Civic thoughts as we get ready for a motion? Joel?
Looking at the surrounding development actually strikes me as more compatible than single family homes. You have apartments to the north, you have an apartment complex to the south, you have a retaining wall between the single family homes, and then you have high density residential on the west side of the street. Yeah, it kind of strikes me as maybe more of a gentle buffer, more of that missing middle housing. I don't know, just initial thoughts.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I would echo that. When I first saw this and looked at what was around it, it felt like transitional zoning, right? You have the higher density down in the lower left of our picture here and across the street, and then less density, and then you have the single family homes on a grade separated area. And so I don't know, my thoughts go both ways. I like that. I like a more accessible price point. I am cognizant about, I'm concerned about the parking issues that might spill out of this. Even if there's parking spots in driveways, my experience is people tend to not use those. They park in the garage or on the street, right? And especially with a 24-foot width that you can only park on one side, that becomes a bigger concern for me. Especially because a lot of it's broken up by driveways, right? And so really there's not that many street parking spots that would be available, depending on which side the fire hydrants are on, because that determines which side the parking can be on. Specifically here, I do think that for me to recommend approval, I would want to see some sort of assurance that the density is not going to go up. And I think there should be stronger owner occupancy kinds of things in place here as well. I think even with those, a few of these are probably going to become student rentals, but at least we can try to mitigate that and keep it as low as possible. So I think I would at least attach those recommendations to it.
You keep that list going just in case some other recommendations jump out as we continue our discussion, John?
Yeah, so.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I thought you were saying,
oh,
will you do that, John?
Yes, sorry, John.
So some of my thoughts, I came in here thinking that unless there was really, really good reasons to change it, that there was no need for the planning commission, even surprised it was brought before us again. Looking at it, if these are to be for families, not having amenity space for families, I think of families involved, there should be some children here. Looking at access, where the children are going to play, and you look at the street access is really only onto the busy Canyon Road, with very little north and south for them to go to. Having something enclosed in this, if we're going to move it to an LDR, I would think having good amenities for them to participate with would be critical here. And not seeing available for that, I'm not compelled to make the change for that reason. And I don't like the tight, as many have mentioned, parking becomes a major issue here. And there really is no adequate place outside of here for cars to park. And pushing them onto the city streets would be unacceptable and I see no reason to approve another project that would yet further burden those already burdened streets. Then you look at impact, but I also have the same thing when you take a look at it and you step back and you go through the area, there is a lot of student housing close by. This could be a transitional zone for that. Makes sense to me. I'd really want to confirm that this particular plan, was submitted before the street change came in place. I would not, if that's not the case, I would no way I would want to approve this narrow street in this condition right here. It feels very tight. But I am respectful for the developer and for their desire. All businesses are for profit here, and so that's expected. And in a concept plan, even though some of the things that are not resolved yet, they don't need to be resolved in a concept plan. So I don't think we can hold that accountable to the developer at this point. I agree to Jonathan's points that if there was love to have some way to make sure that these were really family homes and not student occupied the best way possible. And if that's the city council, we'll defer to them on that. Anyway, that's my thoughts.
Can I follow up? So I added here, John, that you'd like to see the application date confirmed by the city, amenity spaces improved, as well as parking improvements.
That's right.
Okay. That actually brings up a question, if that's okay, in my mind for the developer. So if you could come forward. I noticed that and I should have asked this earlier, sorry, because I did notice this when I reviewed it, but often when I see townhome developments, the kind of plots themselves just kind of surround the townhome, and then there's common space that's owned. But I'm seeing the lots here extend out. Is this expected to be kind of fenced backyards that are individual, more like a single family home development would have?
That's the purpose behind them, is all backyards would be their private space as far as that way goes, to do gardens or whatever else they want to do behind each, rather than being common space. The rest of the front will be more common space for mowing and some of the other stuff in the HOA.
Right. Can you tell me what kind of size of lot or backyard those tend to create?
Well, they're varied, and likewise the different size of the homes, they're varied a little bit depending on the flat space, the amount that's available. And there's on the ones going to the south, they're going to come out and have a little bit of a slope into the existing retaining wall. It's of the student housing adjoining it to the south.
Mm-hmm.
But each of the lots, frankly, is for each twin home is approximately 60 something hundred square feet, 10,000 or so in the total for the pair of them, if you will.
Okay.
So that's roughly the numbers, and that's why it went from initially 38 to, as well as that fire road additional 4 required by the Arizona.
Okay, thank you.
Are you anticipating the backyards to be fenced then?
They can be. We haven't specified, but the only place that there's an irrigation line, if you've seen showing a run along the back of the south, and it kind of crosses between. We can allow to put poles on one side or the other, if you will, for fence posts, but obviously we talked to them, they said we could put gates if we wanted to fence them off so that they could get in and out with, if they had to service it or do something else, they could get a mini X or something in there. But, so yeah, there is some plans in anticipation of fencing yards.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, that's an interesting, I don't know, concept in my mind, right? It creates more of a single family feel with fenced backyards, which in my mind alleviates a little bit of the need of common amenities, because you can put your own playground in your backyard or your own trampoline kind of thing. And just as an example, if this was single family homes, we wouldn't require amenity space for that reason, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's kind of an interesting one. I have to think about where I land on that.
I would also add that I got to imagine that as they get into this, the one that's labeled turnaround easement just feels weird. It either should be parking or amenity or both. I just can't imagine you need both that and the knuckle and kind of cul-de-sac end.
Can you tell what the slope is there?
It's pretty
flat for that.
It was too steep for a sidewalk, so.
But
Mr. Wheelwright, my guess is that there's a fire code requirement that measures from this intersection a certain length, and then you have to have a turnaround. My guess is that that's why that's there.
that's fair.
But we can verify that
That
before
makes
this goes to
sense.
council.
Yeah,
We
that's
can
fair.
also verify this issue of vesting and when the dates look very close, as we've been looking at records while you've been talking. It's looking very close. So that's something we would have to verify before this gets to city council.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Bill.
They should put a basketball hoop at the end of it.
Okay, so have a lot of the same thoughts as John, that this is too much in this spot. I think everybody got behind 19 single-family homes. I understand that you might say, well, single-family homes don't belong here. However, I'm not sure that this solves the problem. I think it creates more problems than it solves, because if they're going to be somewhere between $600,000 and $800,000, it's not affordable housing. So to me, more affordable housing would be allowing somebody to live in a larger home, have an ADU, and provide affordable housing for someone. And this is an ADU area. So I think you could increase the density with single-family homes by allowing people to have ADUs, which allows them to afford the home as well. Whereas here you can't. How are you going to afford the home? And why would you want to pay $800,000 to be crammed in here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the world's biggest ADU fan in general, but it is an interesting concept in this particular space because we know the neighborhood has said as much. There's demand for student housing here.
Yeah.
That'd be a way to create some of that, but also have home ownership, stable families that stay in the neighborhood and put down
Right.
roots, et cetera.
Right. And there's just too many questions in my mind still as well. Things that we really should know. And as far as the road width, and was that application in before? Did he not do the bonding that was required, or requirements that were required before any of the process started? So I don't like the idea of starting into something that's been approved and then coming back and changing the whole thing. That doesn't sit right with me either. So I don't know. It's a challenge, but I just don't think this is solving the problem that we think it might solve. I think it's creating more problems. And I would prefer to see single-family homes with allowable ADUs so people could afford them.
On the flip side, I don't know who can buy a townhome for $800,000 and make money renting to students. You just can't get the rent you need out of it. Well, let me propose a motion. And
Can I make just two quick comments, and then I'd love to hear your motion.
Okay.
One is, like many of you, I'm just disappointed we're back here again. I think I understand why, having heard from the applicant today, but that's a dangerous precedent when the work's already started. Like it makes me a little uneasy that side of it. But I have been thinking, and a couple of the letters mentioned this idea of the housing ladder. I'm actually spending most of the day tomorrow in Salt Lake in a affordable housing summit to talk about this, because this is a serious and significant issue for all of us, for our children, for our grandchildren, whoever's coming along, in our city and beyond. Like, this is not unique to Provo. But the way the housing ladder works is if we build at the top, the theory is that others will move along the housing ladder. So it doesn't bother me to say, let's say we got 19 new $1 million homes. Well, that means 19 households somewhere else, maybe not all of them somewhere else in the city, would occupy these and clear out the spaces that allow that to happen. So anywhere we introduce more housing, I think, is a benefit overall, because it helps the ladder move. I see some for sale signs, and I know interest rates are high and people are still a little unsure about buying housing, but I also don't see vacant houses in Provo or almost anywhere in Utah County. Right? Like, there is a shortage of good housing anywhere in the ladder because of how it helps people move about the ladder, make choice about where they want to live, raise their family, those kinds of things. So even though there's really, reality, there's nothing to happen here that would be affordable. I can appreciate that that is true. But I also am not disappointed that 19 single family homes, I'm not sure 33 is that different than 19 in terms of moving the real needle. But I appreciate the insights and the theories that help us understand how that movement works. So I just wanted to share those thoughts.
Can I just add one more thing? And that is that in this location in particular, the pressure to turn this into student housing would be high. And I realize that it seems like you wouldn't be able to make money, but if you came from another state, for example, where $800,000, you could pay cash for that. And now you rent it for years and years and years. Yeah, it's okay. And also,
It's a poor return.
right. Well, except that okay, there's a lot of reasons. The other thing is Airbnb, and it's difficult for the city to enforce that. So this is a location where it would be prime for Airbnbs,
Very
and then
prime.
you could make a lot of money.
All right, I think we're ready for the motion. I think you were making a list of a few of the
I have
primary
several.
concerns.
Real quick on the housing letter, though, I do agree. I think that's something that's underappreciated, right? That we don't have to just build, I mean, we should build it, but not just affordable housing. We got to build all kinds of housing to get things moving again. And out on the west side, they're building some fairly large, nice homes, and they're all selling like this. So there is demand for that segment as well, including the fact that I've had several neighbors who moved out of Provo because they couldn't find that step-up house in Provo, right? And so if we want to keep our communities and our long-term residents, we need some of that too. So I think that's important. So my motion is that we recommend, well, I guess, yeah, so this one would be that let's see, zone map amendment. Is that a recommendation or is that? Recommendation. So that we recommend denial of the zone map amendment unless the following concerns can be addressed. First, that the city is able to confirm that the application date was indeed before the new road width rule implementation, that some sort of assurance that the density will not be raised after approval is given, that there is an assurance of owner occupancy that is enforceable, that amenity space is improved, and that parking concerns are addressed.
So can I ask, if we don't agree with those conditions, you're saying we would approve it if those were made, if those were met? Because if you do, if someone doesn't
The
agree
motion
with
is
those.
denial.
Unless.
So yeah,
But
the
then that
message we're
means-
sending is if you could solve these, then you'd be okay.
Right, and so if you don't agree with those conditions altogether, then you're gonna say nay to this. Is that what you're saying, to the motion?
Yeah,
See
it
what I
gets
mean? It's a double
complicated
nay.
fast, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, the city council lawyer is the one that said that's how we should do things, right? That we should say no unless
Are
these
there
things,
other
but you're right, it leaves
conditions you would
open.
like, or you just don't
I just
like?
don't like the whole
Those
thing.
don't like that.
Yeah, I
Just
just
flat
think,
no.
I'm gonna say nay, period.
Okay.
So not with conditions being met, because I think you're not gonna be able to do that in a way that I think is the right
Well,
thing to do.
let's do this. What if
we start with a straw poll?
Well, we could do a straw poll, or we could just make the simple motion for denial. And then those of us who would be okay with it can just note that I would have voted yes for approval if these had been addressed, right? And that gets passed along to the city council, and that's fine.
Bill, does that
Kind of
sound
thing.
like a appropriate?
That's better than a motion that has conditions on it, because the conditional zone change is getting very close to that edge of contract zoning. So
Okay.
it's safer to say we're voting against this because we're uncomfortable with these things, or have a motion for approval because of these things.
Okay, so I withdraw that motion. I'll just make a simple motion that we recommend denial for item 2. And then if it could just be noted for the council, had those been met, I would have been okay with it, just as a note.
That's better, Bill?
Yes.
Okay. So do we have a second? So your motion is to deny, is to recommend denial for this
And also,
item.
okay, go ahead.
Seconded.
Thank you. Ready
I'm
to
sorry,
vote?
who was the second?
John.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so it's a denial.
Denial, so-
Denial.
Aye.
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 Nay.
Okay.
So that
4-2.
4-2 passes 4-2. The recommendation of denial passes 4-2.
Yep. Anything the nays would like to pass along to city council? Thoughts?
Excuse me. I look at this and think it looks like a 55+ community. I know it seems strange, but I mean, $800,000 for student housing is, I guess that happens, but it's seems like it would be a bad investment. I don't know.
It seems like there would be better investments, right?
Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't be an institutional investor, but a single person coming from or has
Yeah,
kids
true.
coming to BYU, that's a different story.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah.
So
I just,
I think I'm on board with your notes, but I might still vote no. Like I'm not sure that quite puts me over the top, but I appreciate the conversation. I don't have warm fuzzies that we're going to get to a owner occupied version of this the way the conversation has been tonight. So. Right.
I do agree with your notes, Jonathan. So if those issues had been resolved, I would have changed my vote.
Okay.
All right.
I guess, yeah, to me, 19 to 33 units, that's 60% more families moving up the housing ladder, allowing, I mean, maybe they're moving out of student or student adjacent housing, opening up student housing for students, and it's not putting this pressure, right? I think it moves the needle a lot more than 19 single family homes. Parking concerns, I mean, they're almost double their parking requirement. It's hard to argue that there's a parking issue there. But.
well, I was going to say one more thing. What was I going to say? It was along the same lines of they have, I mean, they require 2.25 spaces per unit, and they have 4. That's pretty good. It's better than we've seen around the city with other people, but I don't know. I just think it's a great, to me, it's right by student housing. It's by the stadium. I can't, I know what I was gonna say. If you have a house that has an ADU, that's great, but aren't you also encouraging more rentals if that's ADU as well? Even though the homeowner lives there, you're still having all these rental units that, I mean, as opposed to.
It's true.
I don't know.
Right. ADUs are important and
They are
an important part of the missing middle housing, but they're not a rung on the housing ladder for people to own. Yeah.
That's how I see it. It's like, well,
all right. Do we have a motion on item 3? So this would be our approval or denial of the concept plan.
I move to deny.
Second.
Comment on the motion. Okay, Joel?
Nay.
Yes. Sorry.
Aye.
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 Nay.
Aye. So that one also passes 4-2. Okay, thank you. All right, let's see. So now we're on items 4 and 5 of the agenda, which I will read together. All right, item 4, Jared Morgan requests a zone map amendment from the CG General Commercial Zone to the MU Mixed Use Zone to entitle a mixed use development containing 18 townhomes and commercial space located at 113, I assume that's and 191 North Geneva Road, Fort Utah neighborhood. And item 5, Jared Morgan requests concept plan approval for a mixed use development containing 18 townhomes and commercial space in a proposed MU zone located at the same address. And
Item 6.
is item 6 also the same?
I can't remember. Thought so.
No, that's
No.
that's Title 14.
Yep, that's different.
Okay, so we're on 4 and 5, and I don't see who my city. Oh, Megan. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you. All right. So this is the property. This came to Planning Commission and City Council last year. So many of you probably have seen this one. Currently, it's 2 parcels. One has a cabinet shop and one is a single family home. Last year, they came to Planning Commission for a rezone for the MDR zone. That proposal had 26 townhomes, 8 of which were going to be live work units and have office space on the ground floor. That proposal was denied. the neighborhood and the planning commission, it seems like desired more traditional retail type uses in this area. Especially with the apartments going in across the street. This is the current zoning map. Currently, it's zoned general commercial. They are proposing now for a mixed use zone. This is the general plan and future land use map designation, which is mixed use and village center commercial. And the way that we look at that is that this whole area should function as a whole, as a mixed use area. And so that's why I believe, you know, with the apartments going in across the street, the neighborhood wanted to see more retail uses on this parcel. This is the concept plan they've proposed. You can see 18 townhomes on the back side, and then 4 commercial flex spaces along Geneva Road. That's how they label it. The townhomes would have tandem garages, and they would have 3 stories. And the commercial units would have 500 square feet of garage space that could be used for parking on the ground floor, and then the rest of the space on the ground floor, which is about 600 square feet, as well as the second floor would be flex office space. The applicant has done this type of commercial development in different cities. They have seen it used as a lot of professional office type uses, as well as personal uses, you know, man caves, that type of thing. Sometimes for personal services like salons or something like that. These are just some renderings for the townhomes as well as the floor plans. You can see the tandem garage. This is a rendering. This is showing more units than would be than they're proposing, which is just 4, but that's kind of what it could look like, as well as, again, more units than what they're showing, but a concept of the floor plans, commercial floor plans. And that's all I have. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Megan. Can you just clarify something for me? I'm having trouble from the staff report figuring out, if you go back a couple of slides to where you see kind of the going right there. Where is this front's Geneva Road? Where's Geneva Road? Is it exactly how it's laid out here?
It's on the right side.
Yep. So it's on your right side of the screen.
Okay. So what is this? I'll say the south, the lower part, these parking, what is that facing? That's facing this kind of, I don't know what that is, an industrial's little plot?
You mean on the south side, what it's adjacent to?
Yeah, what, like that's not a street. So how do we treat that? You understand what I'm asking?
Oh,
Right?
that's
This-
on their parcel.
this-
Okay.
It's on their parcel, but there's another parcel here. And I don't quite understand how we treat that intermediate space when we don't have anything coming next to it. Like we don't know what's going to happen here.
All right. You mean like a shared access or something?
Yeah, I'm help me,
Yeah.
can you help us understand just kind of how that interface is intended or what's going to happen in the meantime?
Yeah, I'm not sure we know what's going to happen on the south property, so I can't speak to that. But this, I mean, what they're showing is just the access that they need for their property. So I don't know if there would be an opportunity for a shared access in the future if that property to the south develops.
Okay, so as it's designed, it's sufficient to gain access and do everything that the applicant needs on their property. It doesn't matter what comes next.
Right. Yeah, that's how we would design it.
Okay.
I do think, Matt, when this came through before, we commented specifically about making sure it could integrate into something
Yeah.
that came in. And I think that's what they're trying to achieve while meeting their needs independently if nothing ever came. Kind of thing.
Good. Other questions for Megan?
Yeah, so I have a few questions. What's the intent of the village center commercial mixed use? So, for specifically, this looks like it's more vertical mixed use. And when this was presented, I was envisioning in a village center more of a horizontal mixed use where there would be commercial or retail down below, and there would be living above. And it just feels like that gives more of a town center feel, that this opposed to having where the commercial is completely separate and it faces the street. It feels it gives a little different feel from what I was envisioning. Am I thinking this correctly, or?
Yeah, so in code, they can do kind of this more horizontal mixed use where it's kind of spaced out. The residential and commercial are separate. The intent for the village center mixed use is to have that whole area operate as a mixed use kind of area, if that makes sense. So not every parcel has to be mixed uses on that one parcel. You could have apartments across the street and be serviced by, walkable commercial on the other side of the street. That makes sense. So it's kind of looking at the entire area.
So it could be either vertical mixed use or horizontal, like
Mhm.
the city didn't have an intent.
Yeah, I think there
How
is an
that-
intent for vertical mixed use, but there is, the opportunity for something more like this. Yeah.
Jonathan?
Can you go back to the elevation of the commercial properties? Are these like garage doors, kind of an industrial?
Yeah, they are
use?
garage doors. There is that 500 square foot garage in the ground floor of the retails or the commercial space. So that's what those are serving.
Okay.
Could you go to the diagram? I had a hard time reading it in the copy I had. Could you go to the layouts of the commercial space? Right there. So we're looking at, what's the height of the first level? Do you know?
I don't know the height of the first level. I think the overall is 32 for the buildings.
Figure half roughly. So that garage was much higher than half, but I would assume it would be half. I could ask the applicant that. Do you have a rendering of the street, what it would look like from the street?
I do not.
I think the landscape plan shows sidewalks from the commercial units on the main floor to Geneva, but it doesn't look like that's contemplated there.
Yeah, so they would need pedestrian access from the right of way.
So it's the
maybe
question,
it's
what's
a
the
small
street?
door.
I don't know if there's a sidewalk there now or not, right? That would be the city's responsibility or part of the plan.
There is a sidewalk. There's no park strip. But there is a sidewalk just outside of what you can see here.
Would there be plans to put a park strip to beautify that street section more than what we see right here?
Not that I am aware of.
So if it's a village center, commercial mixed use, I would think you'd need to have pedestrian access and sidewalks and have a nice view. That's part of so it feels like a town center, not straight flat up high warehouse space, right?
Yeah, I do know that this is a UDOT owned road. And there may be plans to widen that. So I don't know about the plans for building a park strip or anything along.
So, and on that note, I think at the very least, extra wide sidewalk should be there, and it's a very narrow sidewalk at this time along there. So
could you speak about the heights of the buildings? I think the commercial were, what was it, 32 and the
townhomes are 40.
40, and townhomes are 40. Is there any of the, I'll get the term incorrect, but any concern about the shadow that these buildings will impose upon the neighborhood?
I haven't looked into that too much. They're 20 feet off from the west is the setback there, 10 feet from the north, which also has townhomes on it. I don't know the height on them, but we could look into that more closely.
Yeah, if you could, because that's a concern. I remember from the previous plan, the neighbors were concerned that lived just north about the shadow of these buildings upon their properties.
Okay.
But don't these heights already match what the zone for
They
this
do
use
match.
is?
Well, with 10 feet, with a 10-foot setback, is that okay?
I would assume the setback also is, like, they've been already zoned this way. Right?
Well, no, they're asking for the zone. That's not what it's currently there.
Right, and I'm not sure
That's right, the general plan. Yeah, you're
the
right.
existing height that they could have, the single family homes on the to the west of them look like they probably have at least a 20 or 25 foot setback as well. The maximum height in the single family neighborhoods is 35 feet. So it's about 5 foot difference from what they're showing on the townhomes.
Yeah, just the bigger concern I had was to the north. Okay.
The north is townhomes.
Yeah.
Which they may be similar heights, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Megan. I think we'll invite the applicant. Is the applicant present? You'll please join us. You'll have 15 minutes if you need it. Please start with your name for us.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Jared Morgan. I'm with Albion Development. So we're happy to be back. It was a good process last year. You know, we had a really good neighborhood meeting early on. I think it was October. We will go before the neighborhood again prior to city council. I think it's coming up in the first part of September. So we weren't able to, you know, we have communicated with the neighborhood about the new updated plan, and the neighborhood chairs have been, you know, going answering questions. But I feel like we needed some time to like digest what the new approach was going to be. Because frankly, in this area, retail commercial is just unproven. You know, Smith's has come and gone before, and you know, it's just been very slow in this area. And so you can imagine the hesitancy that the family has to invest a lot of money into an unproven product. So I can appreciate, I appreciated their desire with medium density residential before. I'm on board with where we're at now. It's taken me a minute, but I'm there. And so, like Megan had mentioned, we are developing similar type flex product is what I would call it in a couple other municipalities along the Wasatch Front. Lehigh is the one that's is the city that we've just closed on some land, and we're in design right now. So this is a very versatile commercial product, which is why I think it's going to work here, and which is another reason why I'm recommending the family that we go this route, and why we've applied for this mixed use zone. The versatility of the product, what I mean by that is the end user. It really broadens our ability to attract a wide array of end users. My wife and I, just this last weekend, we went to this exact product in Bluffdale, and we toured. She's an interior designer, and we went to an interior designer like pop-up shop in this exact type of unit. They lease that space. They have their showroom there. They had a mini market there. It was great. And that's a pretty good example of a type of user that I could see occupying this space. We've also had good experiences with architects and engineers and then even trades. You know, it's not uncommon to see a plumber or an electrician have their office space here with some area down below to house some of their products and things. So could you maybe go to the elevation of the commercial? Oh, thank you. Forward and backward. Thank you. So these are designed to, there was two different floor plans that you saw. One floor plan is more of a mezzanine type floor plan where, you know, you go up some stairs and then you have kind of a smaller office, and it's just mezzanine, and then it's open from floor to ceiling all the way up to the, 25 or 30-foot clearance in there. These can also have an entire second floor. The product that my partner has done in Draper, they've built out the full, the entirety of the second floor. And you know, have office on that second floor, and down below you have a, you know, an area for, more of a retail type concept. So it's a versatile enough of a product that I have confidence it's going to work in this area. Which is why we're proposing it. And you know, I think I think that it will do well. Our approach with these, we're going to have some for sale, we're gonna have some for lease. These are around 1,500 to 2,000 square feet. And so we want people to have the ability to purchase these if they'd like. So that is the plan on the commercial retail side of things. And I think we're checking the box for the community there. Regarding the connectivity between parcels, you know, we're sensitive to that. Regarding pedestrian connectivity, we're very sensitive to that. I apologize, we don't have a sidewalk fronting the commercial on Geneva Road. There will be a sidewalk there. We want to have connectivity between parcels. We want connectivity to Provo Trail, Fort Union Park across the street, like, and then we want connectivity to the south of us too, which is exactly why we've laid out the parking the way you see it. You know, I can easily envision shared access in the future with a user to the south of us. So I feel good about that component of it. Regarding the northern neighbors, I don't know if you've been to the site ever, but the site's been in the family for a long time. It's a blight on the community. They know that. They want to revitalize the area, beautify it, and there is a huge concrete wall separating this parcel to the townhomes in the north. And I've met with that HOA president, and they despise the wall. And they're happy that it's going to come down and that we'll have more compatibility between the parcels. What that looks like and you know, what type of fence or wall or whatever we decide to do, we'll work with them on that. But I'm excited to see that wall come down too. So let me just see if there were any other comments. I think I answered Mr. Lyons' comments on the floor plan for the commercial. In the previous two agenda items, you know, the discussion about affordable housing was brought up. Mr. Temple talked about the missing middle, which is kind of a hot topic right now in the state. We accomplished this with these townhomes. These are going to be, you know, 1,800 square foot to 2,000 square foot townhomes. We wanted them to be a little bit higher caliber and give a 3-bed, 3-bath option to the area. And so we envision some of these being for sale. We envision the family holding on to some for rent. I think we're okay with having the first year on a for sale product has to be owner occupied. I understand the need for that. And I think we're also okay to have a certain percentage of the for sale product be rent restricted. When I was unfortunately appointed the HOA chair of the Traverse Mountain HOA years ago, and Traverse Mountain, it's a huge community. We dealt with rental restrictions all the time. There's a huge waiting list in Traverse for people to rent homes. They have a cap on what percentage of the community can be rented. So I understand the need for that. I understand the need to meet Provo's housing demands. I also understand the need for Provo to meet the rental demands. So between both product types, we're going to have a mixture of for rent and for lease units, which is another reason why I have confidence in this plan. So yeah, kudos to the staff for helping us kind of think through this and you know, I've worked quite a bit with Provo in the past, so we're happy to be contributing to the west side now, and had a good call with Cody, your economic development director, this week, and yeah, I'm excited to see what the plan is kind of for this area, and we're kind of the first pancake off the griddle from a retail standpoint, so fingers crossed that, you know, it'll be absorbed well. So that's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Jared. Real quick, can you speak to the market acceptability of the tandem garage space? I think that came up last time you were here, and just help us understand. Have you done that before? Are you comfortable with that? You worry about that?
I'm comfortable with it. I've walked several of these units throughout the Wasatch Front. On a parcel of this size, it's very narrow, right? And so I think there's a reason to Mr. Lyons, you know, question earlier, why are we not maybe better integrated? We need to have the commercial on the front for its viability, and we wanted to have a buffer, you know, on the back. So that's kind of why we've segmented it this way. I've walked several examples of this floor type, and I like it. I like it better if it's a live work product, which is what we had before. We had live work units fronting Geneva Road. And you know, I like that you could have an office on the bottom and then the tandem in the back. But I'm not concerned about the acceptance of that. Will some of that area turn into storage? Yeah. I mean, it just will, but you can fit 2 cars very easily in there, and we have adequate enough parking, you know, with some of the driveways and things that I think from a parking perspective, we're pretty comfortable with where we're at.
I also love live work, so come back on a different parcel with more live work. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Questions? Other questions? Yeah.
So a couple thoughts. So if I remember right from the plans, there is an office next to the tandem, so there's some sort of potential light live work there, but I know what you're saying. The question I had was for any of the commercial spaces, if they were to have personal services there with you, I don't think there's enough parking for that. Is that right?
So we're parked at, I think, one stall per 250 square feet is my understanding. So on your land use map, as we look at parking ratios, you know, it's anywhere from 600 square feet per stall down to 100, you know, square feet per stall. With the wide array of end users here, you know, we felt like we ought to be on the lower part of that ratio. So I'm comfortable with where we're parked. One of the tough parts of answering your question is that I don't know if we're going to go full second story or not, right? Like the mezzanine component plays into the square footage at the end of the day. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but
yeah, I understand. That's fine for right now.
Okay.
The other question I had was related to the, could you just talk what your intent is for the Geneva side view? Because you're right, the property needs, this will be a massive improvement to what's there currently in terms of this, setting up this as a town center, town village concept. What's your frontage going to look like from Geneva?
I mean, it'll be well landscaped along Geneva. I want to have these are tricky sometimes when you have infill projects like this. You want to have a cohesive kind of approach with everyone around you, right? And so you know,
You're almost first though, so
yeah. I mean, we'd like to set a precedence, you know, from a aesthetic expectation. So this is going to be a nice product. You know, you'll have various exterior materials, metals, brick, block. you know, it's going to look nice. And so, you know, I want the experience, to be as inviting from a retail perspective as possible. Which is why I love the, you know, if someone wants to have a showroom for something, this is like a perfect product to do that. A lot of glass, a lot of light, coming into the building and out of it. So, the aesthetic is going to be mirrored kind of between the two products. So I think with the landscaping in front, I think, you know, I'm kind of excited about, what it's going to do aesthetically to the area.
All right, thank you.
Right. Thanks, Jared. I think we'll open for public comment if there are any here. But we may call you back, so stay close. Let's see, do we have a neighborhood chair from this neighborhood who would like to? Doesn't look like it. So we will open for public comment. If there's anyone who would like to comment on this item or these two items, you're welcome to come forward and comment at this time. Please do start with your name and city of residence, please. You'll have 2 minutes.
My name is Tyler Frizzell. I live kitty corner, actually, to this development. I commented last time, and one of the biggest issues I see with this are the roads are too narrow. We haven't even seen the consequences of what the big apartment complex is going to do yet to this road. We have the Utah Park right there that has a lot of events. I also see the townhouses attracting students, which there's going to be a lot more cars and parking. These roads are just not built to be packing so much in. And like I said, I mean, we don't even know the consequences of what this massive apartment complex development, you know, has for us yet, and what kind of traffic that's going to create. We've got the freeway entrance right there. So these are just a lot of my concerns.
Thank you.
Commissioners, my name is Corey. I'm from Provo. I also live right behind here. I'm asking you guys to deny both items, the rezone and the concept plan, starting with parking. Because to my research, it does not meet code. The units are dimensioned at 14 feet, 10 inches clear. Section 1437-100, parentheses 2, requires a minimum interior width of 20 feet for a garage counted as 2 parking spaces. And it requires that space to be free of stairs and other obstructions. And staff also classify these as single family attached townhomes and under 1437-060. The 1 and 2 family row requires 3 spaces per unit. That's 54 stalls for 18 units. The plan shows 41. And I'd also like to ask staff to state which line of 1437-060 they used. And the 41 that there actually are there, every resident, it's tandem. Tuesday morning, it's snowing. The guy parked in front is going to have to get out at 7:30, back out for his wife to come out. That's not going to happen. He's going to park on the street, and then somebody else is going to have to park on the street, along with all those other townhomes where the Smiths was going to go. Parking is going to be an absolute disaster. And also, to end my time, this hasn't even been discussed with the West District meeting that's scheduled for 3 weeks from now on September 2nd. So the neighborhoods hasn't even been heard yet. So if you're not going to deny, at least postpone until the neighborhood has been able to been heard. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Seeing no more comments, we'll close the public comment portion and turn to the commissioners for questions, thoughts.
I'd be interested in the city's response to the 2 latest questions about the garage meeting code and about parking meeting code.
Megan?
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up the code here, but, so I did talk to traffic engineer, like I said, about the roads. Both Geneva Road and Center Street in this area are owned by UDOT. They do have plans to widen Geneva to 3 lanes and Center Street to 5 lanes in this area. Those are the information I have on that. And then as far as parking goes, the section that we used requires for multifamily 3 bedrooms, requires 2 parking spots, with the tandem parking spots being allowed in the code section in the staff report, and then 0.25 or a quarter of a parking stall per unit for visitor parking, which is 5 visitor stalls, which they have on the far west side. So that's how we have that, meeting that.
Thank you. Then can you speak to the garage meeting code?
Yeah, and that's the area I was trying to pull up from the city
Okay.
code so I could read it. But yeah, and it is part of state code, I believe, as well, requiring those or allowing those tandem parking stalls to meet the 2-car requirements.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Other comments or questions? Yeah.
So thoughts. So my initial thought is that since the town plan, the city plan is to create this as a village center commercial mixed use area, the request to change from general commercial to mixed use is appropriate, just period. Now the project plan, concept plan could have a lot of discussion if it's appropriate concept for that or not, but to zone this mixed use, I think, yeah, this is an old area that really needs to get changed. This might be a great domino to fall to help revitalize this village center concept that we're looking for. So in that part, I'm very pleased that they're working to improve it and to put something there. And the mixed use concept of having commercial near the street and housing behind it feels like a neat use of this land. Trying to think about, we talked last time at some length about the possibility of combining to a larger section so they could use this property for future retail, but that's kind of a dream that they don't have control over, and that the homes that are there existing own that, and there's no saying if they would ever make that change. So I don't know if I can hold that against them for that. So my general concept is for the concept plan, I actually kind of like it. I think getting some commercial on the street is better than what's there right now. And it's a nice improvement in some way for this parcel to start that process of the village, to have those kind of as you enter into the village, I think is a nice, neat way to resolve the issues that we brought up last time.
I think I agree with that, John. I think last time we were worried that it wasn't far enough to be that catalyst. But at the same time, we're now almost a year later and doing it again. And I want to defer to the market. I mean, we could stick with what's there now, nothing. Well, it's not nothing, but what's there now, but not commercial, or we can let this be the start. The risk is that it sets a precedent of some kind for the rest of that side of the street to be this and not more commercial, which is, I think, what we would like, or ideally for the neighborhood. But I think this is probably a pretty good step forward in many ways. So other thoughts? Melissa?
How do we feel about not having heard from the neighborhood yet? I feel like we did hear last time from the neighborhood somewhat. So does anybody have any other thoughts about having not heard this time yet?
I mean, I would rather hear from the neighborhood. I would be in support of a motion to continue it until the neighborhood meeting is had. On the flip side, I think, yeah, there's a lot of good things about this. The commercial project is interesting. A little bit of me is concerned with the garage doors and the garage space because, I knew a landscaper that I worked for a brief time one summer, and he had a place like that, and he just parked his truck in there at night, and stored fertilizer, right? That's all it was. And I just worry it ends up becoming that kind of thing, a plumber that's not really using it frequently. And I want something that brings people to this area, right? Some true retail salons, for example, would be great. That would be awesome. So a little concern there, but it's a small concern, and I do think they're just hedging. If you know, obviously if someone can put a salon, it's going to outcompete the landscaper that's just parking his truck. So I think they're just trying to be safe there. My biggest concern is just this wide open thing on the bottom. I mean, I like the potential for cross access, especially with a pretty small place, and we want some more commercial to come in there. But I'm just worried, you know, 2 years down the line, I think every single one of those townhomes that shows up and says, we don't want commercial next to us. And we just boxed ourselves in to a situation where now everybody's fighting any commercial we try to bring because we have a few townhomes stuck here that have no connectivity to the neighborhoods behind them that are on an island by themselves. And so that's my biggest concern. So I'd love comments, especially pushback on that, but that is what I'm seeing in my head. Is I actually think it makes it more difficult to bring commercial into the adjoining lots.
Even if it's already zoned, the village, the commercial that's zoned there.
People still fight it, you know that. And so, yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's interesting. It just doesn't, I wish the townhomes could be more connected to the residential behind it and not have their only connection to a commercial lot next door. That's my only concern. Of course, maybe when they move in, they expect that and it's not as big a deal, but.
Other thoughts? Thanks, Jonathan. Tosh?
Did we discuss amenities on this property? I'm asking because I live in an HOA and our condo unit decided to put in a pavilion in the middle of our lot. Just a little old pavilion, and that thing is so popular. There's no water, there's no fire, so it's great for insurance, but it's a gathering place. And so I see this here where it says H, just this open grass right there. Yeah, it'd be nice if you'd put a pavilion or something, or is there an amenity plan for this property for these units, or is it just grass and trees? And that's bad. That's my question.
Mulch or rock is this?
Yeah. So that's my question. Are there other plans for amenities, or is it just open space, and that's open space? Or I guess later the HOA can decide what they want to do with it, I guess. So, yeah, anyway. But I like the commercial against Geneva Road. I think that's great. That just fits really well. Love the style. So that's my thoughts.
So from a city perspective, once they hit 20 units, they have to put in amenities. They're at 18 units. But I don't know if they have plans to put anything in there.
Seems logical you would, based on where you're at in this kind of island effect, right?
Yeah, I think an amenity in that kind of central area would be needed. So I could see a pavilion area being very popular there. So
There is a little park across the street though.
A little.
That's true. But eventually that'll be a 6-lane street that you have to cross to enjoy that park.
Yeah, Megan, to follow up on that, you said they plan to expand Geneva to 3, but it's already 3.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that cross section looks like. I talked to our traffic engineer just very shortly before this meeting, so I'm
I
not
wonder if
sure.
he's thinking up north where it's 2, because right there
Maybe.
it's 3 with parking on both sides
Yeah,
already.
maybe he's thinking north, it would be expanded.
Which in that area, I guess, does mean, you know, you just block parking on the street and then you've got 5.
Yeah.
At that point.
Harder to cross.
It's harder to cross, but it's also means they don't have to eminent domain our new commercial spots here just to widen the
You're
road.
not that far from.
Well, I assume the right of way goes all the way to that property line right now, so they can do whatever they want in that space up to the sidewalk.
Yeah, exactly.
I would think.
Can I ask if you want to take a straw poll about continuing? Because last time it seems like the neighborhood was concerned that there wasn't enough traditional commercial opportunity here. And I'm not sure that we get too much commercial here. Like that's just
4.
a little. So
I think you can
I'd
just
love
make
to
a
hear-
motion and we can vote on it.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, my thought on that is that, I mean, I'm sure the reason he's here is because the meetings and the neighborhood, because we used to meet it, because I was the neighborhood district chair, we used to meet every month. Now we meet quarterly. And so there's just this timing problem. So I'm not totally opposed to that, but at the same time, I'm like, the comments will still show up at city council. So unless we think that's going to dramatically shift us if we're on the fence, then
Well, it might shift me because I would rather see a lot more commercial here too. Actually, I agree with what Jonathan said, that this makes a little island of townhomes and seems like it just should be commercial.
And it's hard because it depends what comes in next to it. If you got vertical mixed use next to it, that'd be great, right? It'd be no problem. But if it was more, we've talked about a small market or grocery store kind of thing on the lot next door, then that's something these people don't want to live next. And I don't know, it just feels limiting.
It kind of seems like some gentle incrementalism again, right? We have single family homes to the north. We have right now zoned as just general commercial to the south, but this is designated as a mixed use sort of village center. So it's like townhomes, maybe some slightly high, more vertical density, increasing in intensity as you get closer to the intersection.
Perhaps, although it's townhomes to the north as well.
Okay.
So,
Oh, right. Yeah. Directly north. Yeah. And then,
yeah.
Which, I mean, maybe some inner lot connectivity would be nice.
Yeah, and you did talk about that. That would help a
between
lot,
those,
right?
yeah.
If they did take down that wall and had some sort of sidewalk to the north, that would help me a lot there.
it sounds like they're already building that relationship at least.
So
I just worry that if we don't, nothing's ever going to get started. Now, this could also shoot somebody in the foot because those 4 units, let's say they're vacant, they never like.
You say that
that's
nothing's going to
hurt.
get started. There's townhomes across the street as part of the big apartment complex thing as well. And so it's already starting.
Well, but I mean, the commercial side, somebody's got to take the stab to get the commercial over here.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there's a restaurant, there's Family Dollar, there's Subway, Dairy Queen, there's commercial at the corner.
Yeah. I actually don't know that you could park traditional commercial on this lot without it just being a strip mall parking lot.
Yeah, it's
like
true.
we require 10 stalls per 1,000 square feet of restaurant. Like you put a Utah's favorite soda shop in there and all of a sudden you need 20 parking stalls and half of this lot is gone.
That's how I was looking at this. So if you want commercials, but what would we do here? Would it really fit? Is this the right space for it?
I mean, if this is supposed to be a mixed use village center though, right? Then the point is walkability and allowing those townhomes to have more accessible things instead of a sprawling sea of asphalt.
Yes, as far as the commercial, if they didn't have the garage doors on the back, I would be super happy with it, right? Because I would feel like retail that's going to draw people in would come. It's just the garage door that makes me nervous.
But I've also been to those, I think Pleasant Grove is where they actually are. They're really cool. I went to a date night pottery place. Like they're really interesting things that show up because they're so flexible. So I don't know that I have the same concern. I think the market will drive. If they can charge more, nobody's going to be parking their truck.
And that's why that's
And
not a
that's
big thing
just has to-
because the lowest rent would be the one that's parking a truck in there. And so it will get the best that it can get.
Yeah. Tosh?
Is there a buffer between the parking on the commercial with the residential? Like trees or shrubs or is that a wall or is that just a little slippery grass or what is that? Between B and C and G. This part right here. Yeah, right there. Yeah, right there. Is there some kind of a buffer between the two properties? The developments, or is it just a?
No, if I understand, it's just garage
Is that just a
doors and
sidewalk?
then the commercial.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Ready for a motion?
I'd love to ask the developer on his timing and plan as far as neighborhood meeting scheduling and things like that.
Jared, will you?
September
So
2nd.
clarify what you want to ask him.
So I'm really tempted to motion to continue until the neighborhood meeting can happen. Does that create some sort of like insane burden on you guys or break? You know what I mean? Like, is that workable for you guys?
I mean, we reached out, like Matt said, like we're kind of beholden to this new calendar. So the timing, it would be unfortunate. I mean, we're planning on city council. I mean, I think all the council will have all of those. We've sent the neighborhood chairs everything weeks ago and there were no comments back from them. So Our intent is to go there and further discuss this in 2 weeks or whenever the meeting is, and take all those comments to council.
And city council is after that. Okay.
Yeah. So my thinking on that, thank you, was kind of similar that if this was the first time we'd seen a project and the neighborhood would not have commented at all on the project for this area, then I would absolutely agree with you that we should continue this until after we have a chance to hear the neighborhood. But because this is related to what they had before we heard their comments, we've seen additional comments, and comments they raise are real, but they're similar to one we already saw. So I don't know if additional comments right now are critical for us. I know some might think, and that's fine. I respect that as well. But because the comments will come in time for the city council, that's why I was willing at this point to go forward without additional neighborhood comments before we make our decisions here.
And I thought my understanding was that meeting with the neighborhood is not mandatory in order to.
It's not, but as a former neighborhood chair, et cetera, I really appreciate the process, and
I
wish I had that
I totally
information.
agree, but I think I'm on the same page with John. We've heard a lot of the comments. If there's anything really significant, the city council will hear it. I'm fine either. I can go either way.
The other issue that they've raised that we spent some time last time talking about was traffic and concerns about just getting onto and off of Geneva Road at that area. Would there need to be a light if there's this many additional vehicles that are there? And we talked about the plans for the roads and the concerns with the neighborhood. But those were alleviated in my mind with the additional, the need to, this is the plan for the neighborhood is going to be if the plans come out, going to be a village center, so the roads need to be created for it. The infrastructure needs to be there. This feels like, since that's the direction the city is taking us, that's what the plan says to do, that this feels like a good initial step toward that. So I didn't feel like the traffic issues, even though they're real, they should not hold this back because they need to be identified and resolved. And this is a vehicle to start that process, make sure they can work. So
I would agree on the traffic issues. I think the issues that were brought up with Center Street traffic are real, but this isn't going to move the needle on that. That's a big enough traffic issue. Center Street's just going to become 5 lanes eventually, is what it ends up being. Like it or hate it. Geneva too, I know they hope that some of the traffic gets relieved off of it when Lakeview Parkway actually connects in up in Orem. Some people, me, for example, will be taking off the other way, not going down Geneva anymore. Now, just for due diligence, Megan, do you remember for townhomes how many trips per day we expect as our kind of rule of thumb? Or maybe David Day knows. I know there's a rule of thumb number that we use per unit, and so we can look at that.
Our Provo City trips per unit is 11.4.
Okay. Per day.
And then when you get up to like 3 stories and above, which this isn't, then it drops down at 8.5, but this would be 11.4.
So this would be about 200 cars per day.
Yeah. Number of units times 11.
Yeah. So, I mean, 200 per day is not a ton. That's one every 6 or 7 minutes kind of thing. So.
Except that's not how they're distributed.
No, they're not evenly distributed, right? But.
We want to make a motion. You want to straw poll the continuing?
So
Well, the continuing, I guess, in my opinion, thinking this through, it's an unfortunate consequence of moving to 3-month cycle. But I guess as I think it through, I don't want to create a precedence where we can't move stuff forward in this city ever because they got to wait 3 months until a neighborhood meeting. So it's unfortunate that that's the schedule, but I can't control that.
Agreed. Motion?
I'll make a motion if we're ready for it. For item 4, I move that we recommend approval. The proposal is consistent with the general plan. So the Plan Commission recommends approval to the City Council of the zone map amendment from the CG zone to the MU zone for the 1.32 acres of land at 113 and 191 North Geneva Road.
I second.
Any comments on the motion? We'll get started with the voting.
Sorry, the motion was to approve.
Recommend approval.
Okay, aye.
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 Aye. That motion passes 6-0. On item 5, a motion.
Guess I can go again. Do we have any discussion on the concept plan before we make the motion? We've had a lot of it already. I'll just make a motion and see where it goes. I move that the planning commission approves a concept plan for 1.32 acres of land at 113 and 191 North Geneva Road.
Second.
Thank you. And just for confirmation, right? If the city council denied item 4, then item 5 would become kind of null and void, right? Okay. So we've got our second. So Joel?
Aye.
Did you want to say anything about this, Jonathan? Are you comfortable with the discussion we've had on the?
I'm
concept plan?
comfortable with the discussion we've had. It's really a 50-50 thing for me. I think I'm going to vote nay and just say it's close, but I have some reservations kind of thing. But, you know, I'm not going to be upset if it's 5-1 on that one.
Okay, that's how I feel as well, actually. So I'm
Okay,
going to say
so
nay.
sorry, let's start again just so I'm clear. Joel says
aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
I'll say aye. So that passes 4-2. Do you want to state your reservations?
Yeah, just
for
in the record, it's a weak nay. I just have some reservations about boxing ourselves in with the neighboring developments, with just an island of unintegrated townhomes.
And I would ditto that. That's exactly how I feel.
Okay. We good with that, Sandy? All right. Thank you, Jared and Megan. And
can I call for a 5-minute break?
5-minute break.
Yeah.
Ready, go.
Okay.
Yes, 5-minute break, and then we will continue with item 6. Item 7 has been continued on. But we do have an item 8 after item 6. Let's do it. All right, we're back to order. And Melissa would like to have the floor for a moment.
Okay, so just for the record, to clarify my nay on that last item. That piece of property feels to me like it's very key to that development. The whole mixed use concept there. So we've got housing, we've got a few little commercial things, but that would be a perfect place for a grocery store of some sort. And if we chop it up and put just these little isolated townhomes and very small commercial use, then we can't get that back. So I would prefer to put that out there, that I think this should be saved for a little better commercial use that will service the neighborhood better.
Duly noted. Thank you. All right, we will move on with item 6. Development Services requests an ordinance text amendment to replace Title 14 in the Provo City Zoning Code. This is a citywide application, and Aaron and so many others have put in hours and hours and hours. So we're grateful to have this before us, and we miss Lisa.
Thank you. All right, so quickly, let me get the clicker. All right, background. So for all the public that are here, just the background, the Planning Commission knows this, but we started this essentially 3 years ago. So we've been through this process in front of you. The team that's been involved is here. We've got a representative from SOMAS, Chris Hupp. We've had a lot of city staff involved, including a lot of hours from our city attorney to get us to this point. So the need, the zoning, a lot of the zoning code of Provo City has existed for decades. It's been fixed and repaired with amendments and band-aids, and a lot of it's outdated or redundant or just no longer used. So we've been needing this for a while. So it's been great to actually have this opportunity to run through the code, see what we still need, revise that, and get it to something that can be easily interpreted and used by the public, staff, developers. Everybody can have a clear understanding of the zoning code of Provo. General overview. I'm not going to read all these things. Some of these have been brought up in study meetings with the Planning Commission, but these are really kind of the overarching goals and results from this 3-year process. Getting it up to date, having a consistent style, reducing just the scale of the zoning code, and getting down to what's actually needed to effectively implement the goals, policies, and plans of the city. So this is kind of the meat of it here. What's changed? We removed 68 chapters of Title 14. The majority of those are the pro zones. So these pro zones, project redevelopment option zones, are zones that were written for a specific project. That project has been built. The zone is no longer needed. Let's get rid of it. Consistent format. This is where legal came in and helped us out a lot. Brian Jones with his legal team had a style guide that we implemented throughout the entire title for consistency and ease of use. Updated terms, meeting LUDMA state requirements. Going to tables. So before you had to go from chapter to chapter to find out what works for you. Going to a development standards table to understand what the lot sizes, the widths, dimensions are, and a land use table to easily compare and contrast what's permitted where. Those alone are going to make a huge difference to staff and to the public, to developers. Another thing that SOMAS really helped us out with is providing this TOD zone. It's replacing an ITOD zone that was interim for quite a while, and going to a true form-based zone that is context sensitive to the surrounding uses and zones, but also helps us to meet the goals of our station area plans. Best practices. Again, SOMAS is coming in to help us understand what's out there in the Wasatch Front, in Utah, outside of Utah, incorporating those best practices into our zoning code so we can keep Provo moving in the right direction. Specifics on those is changing some parking standards for certain uses. You'll see that these feather flag signs that have been a consistent headache for code enforcement, having a very restricted use of those in certain commercial zones, simplifying the definitions and getting rid of things that we don't use. So those are some of the things that we implemented in this. What didn't change is just as important, if not more. We had clear direction from the city council when we were awarded the funds to not go and make policy decisions on behalf of the city council. Outside of them declaring that, yes, let's look at form-based code and TOD zone. Let's look at some of the things with parking to see if we're up to date on those. So those are things that we did change that are kind of policy decisions. Outside of that is a cleanup, is a rewriting, cleanup, reorganization of the zoning code. I think that might be my last slide. Yes, that's my last slide. I'm happy to answer any questions. As you know, 400 pages is a lot to read through. We try to get it to you early. A lot of what's there, like I said, has been there. So we didn't want to change policy, but we want to just make it more clear. We have SOMAS here to answer questions about things with the TOD zone or the tables that were created that they were a big part of, and kind of the baseline of how we got to where we are.
Thank you, Aaron, and everyone who contributed, because this was a Herculean effort, we understand. And just to make clear for the record, we've all read it and had these meetings in stages. So there's been a lot of conversation with the Planning Commission, and I'm sure many, many others along the way. So any questions at this point? Melissa, did you have?
I just wanted to make it clear. You said best practices, incorporated best practices in local planning throughout the code to keep Provo moving in the right direction, i.e. parking counts for certain uses, but there were no policy changes made, no changes in the amount of required parking.
There was some adjustments there, actually. So there was inconsistency between uses, gross, net. Made those all net. Let's be clear. Let's make sure everybody understands what the actual ask is. Warehouses, that parking standard was reduced because those were being overparked with developments that we saw in Provo. We created a townhome parking that needs its own standard, so we provided one there. Everything else essentially stayed the same.
Okay, thank you.
Did you establish parking for the university?
Sorry, yes, that's the other one I forgot. University parking. We didn't have a standard for university, so we were using the high school standard. That didn't work. So we through a lot of study, other universities, what BYU's programming is, created a standard for that.
We did send that standard. We did send that standard over to BYU. We haven't heard back from them yet. I'm sure they'll weigh in before this goes to city council.
Thank you for that reminder, John.
Yeah, I had a few questions. So, first off, I agree. It's a wonderful effort. Absolutely needed. I really appreciate the work that was done. The copy we had, the TOD zone wasn't finalized. There were some comments and things that were still in that. I presume that will be cleaned up and taken care of before it goes to city council, right?
So the little notes on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are kind of internal notes to follow up on. But that is kind of the final draft that we have. Yes.
Okay.
We did also incorporate the notes and requested changes that the Planning Commission had in that study meeting. We incorporated some of those. Hopefully you noticed those.
Okay. I didn't go through all 400 pages. Got about halfway through, and then that was well. Were there any major issues that the Planning Commission raised that were not incorporated?
Not that I can think of outside of actually changing policy. And there was some questions about why is this the standard?
Fine.
That's still the standard until the council decides to change it.
Great. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you.
I'm going to open it to public comment and hope Rachel will come talk to us. Just kidding. Just kidding. Is there any citizen who would like to comment on this item? We will not seeing any. We will close public comment. Sandy, we're good online. Okay. Comments, questions, thoughts that we haven't addressed?
I'm sorry, I did have one question for the city staff. In a change this massive, there's going to be issues that were not caught. As you go through the implementation, there are things you're going to find. What's the process for identifying those and getting those resolved quickly? Is there anything that in place for that?
All right, so like Chris is going to help on this, but just for context, familiar with recent codes and things that we've adopted in the city, we've come back pretty quickly after and made adjustments, right? I think the same could be said for this. Any new code, as many times as you proofread it, you're going to find mistakes or loopholes that you need to come back and fix. I think that's part of the process.
The other part with this is, as part of this scope, one thing that we are giving the city as in addition to the code is this guide as to how to continue to maintain the code so that it doesn't become sort of the mess that it was. So there'll be that structure, the style guide that we were talking about. There's also a use case, as in if we're making a change in this section or it addresses this, there's a use case on how to actually put that in, where it should go in the code so that it stays cleaner and more organized as updates do happen, because they will happen.
Okay. Mr. Lyons, if we find something that's very significant, we would bring that forward right away. Otherwise, I prefer to wait till we have 3 or 4 issues to bring forward and do them at one time.
Yeah, makes sense.
Great. Thank you. I think it's great progress. I'm so happy for everyone involved. Someone would like to make a motion to continue it just to make Aaron happy?
I'll state a motion.
Thanks, John.
I move that the Planning Commission recommends that the City Council approve the proposed ordinance text amendment to replace Title 14 of the Provo City Code as written.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any comment on the motion? Joel, you want to start self-voting?
Aye.
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 I'll say aye, so that's passes 6-0. Congratulations, Aaron. You can start sleeping again. All right, we will move on to item 8.
Can I just
yes, please
interject really shortly? I think the experience of going through the code has been very eye-opening, and has let us deep dive on some of the minutia that maybe we don't catch very often. I would hope that maybe there are opportunities for us to tackle some of these now. There have been talks about looking at South Campus area, looking at sort of the campus residential zone, looking at parking requirements. I know did some napkin math, and right now we require 1 stall per tenant for botching singles, which got 35,000 students, is about 250 acres of parking lot to house just our students. Just strikes me as that there's definitely room to continue improving and building. I know policy changes weren't in the scope of this, but now that we've been able to sort of deep dive and see some of those things that jumped out at us, I'd love to, get into it.
Great. Future work meetings. Aaron already left. He's already going home to go to bed. Good point. I'm sorry.
State that item 7 is.
Oh, sorry. Yes, item 7 has been continued, so we are moving on to item 8. Before we leave, Joel's comment, I know we have work meetings every time we meet. Hopefully we can start or continue, because we've done that with parking. We had a fairly extensive multiple times about some of the parking, and as we are all paying attention to what's happening and some of the trainings, we can broach some of those better.
Planning commissioners are always welcome to reach out to to me. And if there's something you want to study specifically in a work session, we're happy to do that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Bill. All right, so item 8, Bret Nelson requests project plan approval for a 7-unit flex office development in the MP Manufacturing Park Zone located at 1722 West, 820 North in the Grandview South neighborhood. And Dustin will be presenting on this one as well.
All right, thank you very much. So this parcel, or I guess there's 2 parcels here. They total 1.5 acres. There's an existing warehouse on the property, and then this vacant parcel is what they're looking to add on to with the development. So here's a site plan showing what's being proposed. These 2 new buildings with the lines on them. Those are going to be the warehouse office flex space that's being proposed. This is showing 7. Those numbers could change. Those as tenants come in, those numbers could take up 2 or 3 or the whole thing. But currently they're proposing to develop it this way. Also of note on the site, so that golden area there, that's kind of that hillside. And so that's 30% or greater slopes. And so part of what the request tonight for you to weigh in on and vote on is going to be to grant. So the Planning Commission has the power to allow them to develop within that 30% slope, which is typically not a buildable area. So no structures are being proposed in that area. It's just, as you can see here, some retaining walls for the parking lot to be able to function as shown here. So just a couple of small areas that they're proposing to seek that variance to be able to push into that 30% slope area. So that's just down at the bottom of that hill. Shouldn't be visible from the street or cause any issues there. Engineering's okay with that as well. They've given approval to do that. So kind of moving on, there's the landscape plan that's being proposed. On the left-hand side of the screen there's a residential zone there. So there's homes there. So what they're required to do is provide a 10-foot landscape buffer. They have a 15-foot space between there and the building, and adequately landscaping that area to meet that buffer requirement. And then the hillside obviously is that enough space there between the residential neighborhood up above. And then here's some of the floor plans and elevations of these buildings. And yeah, so I think that's all I had. If you had specific questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Questions, Jonathan? Sorry, I started with
Dustin,
Jonathan.
can you go back to the landscaping design? I was just curious what these little white rectangles going up the hill are.
Those are just, you can't see them, but those are the contour numbers.
Oh, I see. They're just elevation markers. So there's nothing going in there. I was like, are they trying to put a walkway up the hill? That's pretty steep. Okay,
Big
that sounds
legs.
good.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, what's the building height? My question is, will there be a shadow issue for the neighbors on the south side of the or the west side of the property?
So in staff report, the building height is 22 feet. So the zone
Pretty slow, short.
Yeah,
is
that's pretty low. That's okay.
Yeah.
The second question is, in the conditional note, there should be a 6-foot decorative masonry wall between residential properties to the site plan. Is that to be on where is that wall, and what's the purpose of it?
just required between that residential zone that I mentioned where that landscape buffer is. So the code requires that there's a landscape or masonry, a decorative
The decorative masonry
wall,
wall. Okay.
in addition to that. And so some earlier plans that they had that on there. I think the most current version, it wasn't on there. So I think that was just something that was overlooked. And so if you're going to approve this item, I put conditions. That's one of the conditions that gets added back on.
You also indicated some remaining CRC items. What are those specifically?
So that was for Public Works. They still had some utility things, and that's kind of going back to whether or not those are going to be 7 units or if they're going to be combined. They would like to see some laterals if they are going to be individual units. So it's just kind of something that they still needed to work through and get more information, but didn't want to hold up Planning Commission. So they that's something they'll be able to work out still.
Okay.
So just to clear, sorry, Commissioners, we've had many proposals on this property in the time I've been here at the city. Every proposal has needed to impact the hillside to build it. This proposal impacts it the least of, I think, any of the plans I've seen previously. There was even one very recently for a residential project here that would have required a zone change and would require cutting in the hillside even more. So the developers really tried to respect that as much as possible.
Thank you. I was going to say, just to clarify, so when we make our motion, we should make a comment that the wall should be shown.
Yeah, if you're looking to approve it, in
they're already here.
Under possible motions, I listed 3 conditions there.
Yes.
One of those, the first one is that they combine the 2 parcels into one. The other is the CRC comments are approved, and then that wall.
Got it. Thank you.
And then as part of the motion, since it's kind of 2 things, just note that you'd be approving the project plan, and you'd also be looking at approving that variance to build in that 30% slope.
Okay. Thanks, Dustin. Yep. All right. I think we'll open for public comment. Oh, is the applicant here? Oh, please. Sorry, you just blended in. Please start with your name for us.
I'm Bret Nelson, entitlement consultant working for Prowse. I am not one of the principals, but here in their behalf. I think the only thing that I feel impressed that maybe needs to be brought up is that the decision to not try to schedule this and distribute the wet utilities accordingly into 7 units between the 2 buildings is primarily because discussions with prospective tenants that the owners of Prowse have already entered into have all gone in the directions of leasing all of building 2 with 1 tenant, and probably the 3 southmost units, which could possibly be shifted north for the other one. So exactly where we need to distribute for sewer and water is just undetermined yet, but would like to put in fewer tenants, not more. We feel like 7 was a max.
Great. Thank you. That was easy.
Yeah.
How tall are those retaining walls? It looks like the one on the far left is the tallest, but just give us a magnitude, kind of a sense of.
It might be worth noting that probably we can give you the parking demanded for the 80-20 ratio that zoning calls for, even if we didn't get the retaining walls. But we'd like to have a little bit more parking. It allows us to add 3 to 5 spaces. Circulation will be a little bit better. Cars will be able to back in and out of those top spaces a little bit better. But my recollection in my discussions with Northern Engineering is that those 2 smaller walls to the east are actually only scheduled to be about 4 feet. So, and they would be engineered accordingly. And that the little bit larger one there would be about 6.
Great. Thank you.
In the question, in the engineering and development of those walls, is there any additional issues to the slope we should be concerned about?
No, I don't think so. And I'll express it as my personal opinion that having been out there on the site, There's a considerable amount of undocumented fill throughout that area. We don't know what the natural slope and exactly where the toe ended. It's possible that the toe of that slope is now actually steeper than it was naturally. This is a chance for us to just shore that up, and I think you'll end up with a better and more stable product than what you've got now.
Any concern about the hillside itself and the property? I'm not sure what to ask, erosion or water during heavy snows or rains or things like that.
I mean, it's been subject to erosion before. You've got your wet utility, your storm drain, your sewer coming down through that easement. From experience, I would personally, I mean, I looked at that mat that was put in there and what was seeded and has grown up. On top of that easement, I doubt you've got root structures deeper than 4 or 5 inches maximum, which tends to be ineffective, but that decision was made some time ago. And as you can see, we're not planning on disturbing that at all.
Good.
The day may come that it requires a little disturbing, and then of course we want to be cooperative with the city.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
We'll open for public comment. Rachel, now's your chance.
Hi, Rachel Breen, Provo. And I actually worked in that existing building for many years. Me and Na worked there for many years together. And we worked there right after the flooding, the big flood they had on Grandview Hill that took away that hillside. And actually most of it landed right near that building. So I really appreciate the plants. I appreciate the retaining walls. As far as I know, there hasn't been a problem since that weird rain flood thing we had. I love the buildings because it was super creepy with that field when we worked in that building before. So I'm excited that there's something going in there. But no, it just looks like a good project. I just wanted to come and say I'm excited that something's finally going in there. So have many fond memories of that building. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Not seeing anyone else, we will close public comment. Questions, discussion, Jonathan?
Yeah, so this is on my commute to work. Drive by there when I don't bike. And I've always looked at this lot and wondered, why is it vacant? There's one across the street that I'm always like, why is it vacant? So I'm glad to see some action, something happening in this area that might create some energy and see some of the other buildings cleaned up, et cetera. In fact, I'm excited to see that building cleaned up that does exist there. And I'll be honest, I mean, that barely looks like developing on the 30% slope. I mean, it's barely touching it. Erosion can be a concern there. I know there's a mat there with some growth on it, but that's a separate issue. I don't think this is going to worsen anything that's there.
Tosh?
I agree with Jonathan. I think I'm from here and I thought, man, in my lifetime, this will never be developed. There's certain properties that I thought would never be developed. So I'm excited to see this come through if it happens. Yeah.
So this is right across the street from the high school, right? Or the
Freedom.
The Freedom,
Yeah.
yeah. Is there any concern about that?
No, I think it was Freedom's choice to build there among all these kind of, it fits every other building in the area better than Freedom does.
Yeah.
Good. So.
I'll make a motion.
Please.
I move that item 8, Bret Nelson requests project plan approval for a 7-unit flex office development in the manufacturing park zone, Grandview South neighborhood, that we approve the proposed project plan and the variance to build the 30% slope as shown on the site plan with the following conditions. Number 1, a plat is recorded that combines the 2 parcels into one. Number 2, remaining CRC items are addressed and CRC approval is given. And number 3, a note for a 6-foot decorative masonry wall between residential properties to the site plan. Add the note for the 6-foot wall.
Thank you. Ready to vote, Joel?
Aye.
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 Aye. That's 6-0. Want to stick around longer or someone have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Seconded.
Seconded by John Lyons. We will
That doesn't need to be recorded.
conclude this meeting and we will see you next time.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry, I'm still learning. Yeah.